Only on KCRG 9.2.
Welcome, everybody, to Linn-Mar Aquatic Center on what is a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I'm KCRG's Mike O'Brien, joined alongside Jake Gantenbein. Jake, how are you doing today? We're ready to get going for the regional swimming and diving. We did diving Thursday. Swimming's up next. State's just a week away. A lot of stakes on the line here today.
For sure. It's excellent to be here. Beautiful aquatic center here at Linn-Mar. Nice day outside, nice day inside. Like you said, stakes are pretty high here. Looking forward to a lot of fast swims today.
We've got our first event coming up very, very briefly, the 200-yard medley relay. But before that, we'll check out our keys to the event, sponsored by Cedar Rapids Toyota. Again, Jake, like we just talked about, stakes are high. Automatic qualifiers for the state competition next week on the line. But you got to know your goal, because there are other avenues you can take outside of just winning your events today here. And then the other one, the crowd impact. One of the big reasons we're here today, gratefully so, is to try and provide everyone watching at home, whether that be parents, whether that be grandparents, aunts, uncles, relatives. It's your only way to watch the action tonight, because we have 0 spectators in the crowd. Weird environment, especially for an event like a regional championship.
Yeah, it's almost like you're going to have to make your own adrenaline today. No crowd today. So we're happy to be able to bring this to everybody. As for knowing your goal, there's a couple of ways you can get to the state meet next week. You can win the regional. So every winner that we have in every event today automatically qualifies no matter what their time is. There's also an automatic qualifying time for all individual events. And then we also will take the top 32. So there's 7 districts across the state swimming today. So if you are outside that 4 or 5 range in your individual event, you're definitely going to be sweating it a couple hours from now when every district closes out.
And that's exactly when it will happen, in a couple hours, when we get the rest of the district results coming through, and it's really just the Iowa Girls High School Association Union, releasing those results, and people just refreshing their tabs as we're underway. Heat 1 of 2 for the 200-yard medley relay. In lane 3, we have Keokuk, lane 4, Jefferson, and lane 5, Williamsburg. Again, there will be a Heat 2 following, with teams in 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 lanes. So
we have 8 teams here today. They actually broke up the relays into 2 heats, Heat of 3, Heat of 5. And for order of event here, this is the 200 medley relay. We're going backstroke, and then breaststroke, and then butterfly, and then freestyle. So our breaststrokers are in the water now.
After the first 50, that was Maddie Childers leading off for Jeff. Into the water for breaststroke is Addie Mugen.
So it was always important here to get into that fast heat, into those that second heat, because now you know exactly what you got to do. It's also nice to have clean water here, though. So in lane 4 here, we've got Cedar Rapids Jefferson. And they've got some clean water here, which is good. That's important.
It's that advantage of being in that middle lane, as Caitlin Sellen is ready to dive into the blocks. And again, especially on the relays, these entry from the blocks on relays are so crucially important, always in any meet, certainly today, because as we talked about the automatic qualifiers, if you win your event and then there's other chances to make state, you could have a state record earlier in the season, in the regular season, but unless you finish the event today, doesn't matter if you win, unless you finish, you're not going to state, no matter what your times were in the regular season. It makes those false starts, those disqualifications, what everybody's got such a sharp eye for today, where the pressure is really applied.
Yeah, and one of the maybe the only disadvantage you have of having such clean water like Jefferson has here is the officials' eyes are right on you. You're so far out in front, and everybody's going to be watching your exchange. So you have to make sure that you're fast on these, because every tenth of a second is important, but you also got to make sure that you're safe, too.
Sophomore Lainey Cleese, the anchor, finishes it out for Jeff, who wins with a final time of 1:58.67. Cleese with a 26.3.
So just as a point of reference for you Jefferson fans specifically, last year's qualifying time in the 200 medley relay was 1:59.02. So as of last year, Jefferson would have gotten in with that time of 1:58.67. Now 2 years ago, the time was 1:57.76. So probably to be safe, you want to be under that 1:57.76 number. So Jefferson should be, based off of history, right around that cut line of the top 32, if history is any indication of that.
And again, you see one of the unique changes to this 2020 swim season where the swimmers are now exiting on the opposite side of the pool. On the left side, that purpose is to limit any kind of interaction between the swimmers of different teams. We've seen plastic guards in between lanes. Just a bizarre season. Swimming is a little bit in a different boat, given that they're diving into a pool full of chemicals that might wash away some, infectious diseases. But still, all precautions are being taken in place, and certainly ourselves, as well as the athletes and the coaches, are just happy to be competing, and we're lucky to be doing that here in the state of Iowa as we get ready for heat number 2 of this 200 medley relay. In the middle lanes right there, you see Iowa City High in lane 3, Iowa City West, who's the favorite to win today, in lane number 4, and Linn-Mar, the hometown Lions, in lane 5. We'll get a little bit more into Iowa City West as the meet progresses. Man, do we have some high caliber swimmers here, and both, I believe, are in this, none are in this 200 medley relay. They're in the relays later. That is Aurora Rogaire and Scarlett Martin, which I'm sure we'll talk about in abundance as the day progresses.
So we'll give you a tease here. One of them is committed to Stanford, and the other is committed to Florida, which are 2 swim powerhouses.
Defending state champions, looking for repeats as well this year. And there are certain events where they won last year, and they're not even included in that event this year because head coach Byron Butler is trying to go for those team points. They finished 4th last year at state, really trying to get onto that podium, whether it be 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, and bring home a trophy this year. So far, after the first 50, lane 4 and lane 6, neck and neck. That's Carly Wilkins and Sydney Jones from Washington. Sydney Jones, another fantastic swimmer for the Wash Warriors.
And, I had the pleasure of competing against Coach Megan Lewis in Cedar Rapids Wash for a number of years when I coached at senior, and she always has her athletes prepared for this meet.
Into the water is sophomore Haley Kimmel for Linn-Mar. She's in lane 5 and has taken the lead. One of the best breaststrokers in the entire state.
Yep, we'll see her later in the 100 breaststroke.
And about 1 body length of a lead as we are ready for the 3rd leg of this relay. Into the water for Linn-Mar, Lily Gielin. Ella Hostetler will be chasing for Iowa City West, as is Abby Jones for Linn-Mar. Lane number 3, Heidi Stalkfleet, trying to catch up for City High as that lead is dwindling for Linn-Mar. The anchor, Olivia Tager for Iowa City West against Lily Hars for Linn-Mar, and it looks like it will be a battle between Linn-Mar and Iowa City West for this first event crown.
That's a heck of a fly leg for Ellie Hostetler there.
After the first 25, it's Hars with the advantage, but what a turn there from Olivia Tager. Right after the flip turn, there are neck and neck. Olivia Tager looks like she has just a half an arm length lead, and it will be Olivia Tager bringing it home for the Trojans, who win the first event final time, 149.89, a split for Olivia Tager, a 24.59 to bring it home.
It's a great swim for City West. Linn-Mar and Wash as well, both nice swims. So, again, remember, we had that cut time, 159.02 last year, 57.76 the year before. So all 5 of those swims for Tipton, Iowa City High, Iowa City West, Linn-Mar, and Wash would have fallen under the time from last year. But, again, we can't look at that and convince you and give you the satisfaction and understanding that it's a guarantee that they'll make it because we never know what the cut is going to be. But they're indeed, especially the ones that went 54 and 53, they're in good shape there.
Well, and if it's anything like what we saw diving on Thursday, we had 10 divers diving in this regional here at Linn-Mar. 9 of the 10 set personal bests and set season best scores. So when you look at, seed times from whether it was this year or last year or the year before, if these girls are just breaking records left and right, you kind of got to throw those out the window because you don't know, what's happening at the other regional meets, let alone how the seed times will be lowered as the average times kind of separate from each other throughout the day.
Yeah, so just a testament to what you were saying. Every one of those relays, we have seed times here in the heat sheet, and every one of those relays was 4 to 5 seconds under their seed time, which is a great start. We always like to build off of the medley, the adrenaline. You're going to have to do so, especially in a day like today with no crowd. Really going to have to build off of your own adrenaline.
Looks like we have a slight warm-up here after the 200-yard medley relay. The next event will be the 200-yard freestyle. where, again, we talk about the two swimmers from Iowa City West who have just turned heads all year long. Aurora Rogaire will be the overwhelming favorite in this next event. Rogaire, the one going to Stanford, and she's the senior. Scarlett Martin, again, which we'll talk a little bit more later on. She's only a junior, so she's got another year left. But Rogaire's the one to watch. But again, 4 heats coming up in this 200-yard freestyle. And that's coming up next. But first, we're going to take a quick word from one of our sponsors.
The Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union encourages positive behavior,
pride, respect, leadership, and sportsmanship on the court and in the stands.
Remember what a great privilege it is to see your team compete.
Thank you for your attendance and enjoy the game.
Again, swimmers in the pool mainly kind of doing a little warm-up here before we get started in event number 2. Technically labeled event number 3, as diving would count first. But again, we talk about these swimmers from Iowa City West, and you'll see Aurora Rogaire. You'll also see her younger sister, Jade Rogaire, who's quite the swimmer herself. Certainly has that developmental recipe that will be left behind her sister in case she wants to go Division I. But like you mentioned earlier, Jade Rogaire going to Stanford, and it's a success anytime you can swim collegiately at any level. Certainly when you hit that D1, and Stanford is just
powerhouse.
That's a whole nother level,
yeah.
As is Florida. But we're talking about one of the cream of the crop in academic institutions. Obviously, to get in, you have to be a fantastic student, which Aurora is. But to swim at a Pac-12 institution like Stanford, that kind of just says it all of what you need to know about Aurora Rogaire.
Yeah, and that's a testament to her work ethic and her coaching. And, it takes a lot to get to a place like that. The talent level and the hard work and coaching is a part of it too. But 98% of that is Aurora, and maybe 2% of that is coaching.
I'm sure Coach Butler appreciates the love.
Yes.
Says it was all him, right, and his developmental strategy and coaches. Well, after that 200-yard medley relay, we've got some team updated scores. Linn-Mar with the lead in first place, 82 points for the Lions. Iowa City West trailing with 63 in second place, followed by Cedar Rapids Wash with 59. City High with 46, tied with Jeff, also with 46 in fourth place. Again, these points a little bit skewed, mainly due to the diving competition on Thursday, which Iowa City West actually had a couple points that they would have liked to see, and again will also hamper their total points when it comes to the state meet. They had a diver who was ranked in the top 15 who actually fell sick with pneumonia, so wasn't able to compete in the regional diving event on Thursday, which of course then subsequently means she's not able to compete in the diving state championship on Saturday, which will hurt those team points, and any point matters, especially when you're really fighting tough for one of those podium spots.
Yeah, and when you're Iowa City West and you're fighting for not only points, but you're fighting for a possible state title, that could be the difference between a title and not a title. And that's unfortunate that they lost that diver, and well wishes to her and getting better. And, it's a testament to all of these athletes across the state that we're at this point, right, with everything that's been going on, and everybody with safety protocols and everything else have gotten us to this point. So it is a testament to all the athletes and all the coaches and officials that have gotten us here.
And again, I don't want to talk too much about Iowa City West. We do want to give love to the other teams, but it is for good reason when you're talking about the one team out of the teams here today that actually has a real legitimate shot of winning a state title. When you look at the statistics from the regular season and all the meets that happened, every single event, Iowa City West has the top seed except for one, and that's the 100 breaststroke. Every single event, they have either Scarlett Martin or Aurora Rogaire. That just shows you the dominance they have statewide. Now, of course, those who follow swimming knows that doesn't necessarily transfer into team championships, because someone, a team that comes in second and third place, they get bumped more points than the first place winner. But if they were to enter those two swimmers into those individual events, they'd come out with 8 titles.
Yeah, and luckily for the state of Iowa, they can only swim 4 events.
Exactly.
So they can't do any more than 4. So they're going to have to find some depth elsewhere, and they do have it.
Ready to start the 200-yard freestyle. We have 4 heats here, as our main official tells the swimmers to ease up a little bit and then start.
That main official today, Bruce Verink, he's been around the block a time or two. He's worked NCAA championships. He's worked Big Ten championships. So we are in good hands today with our official.
In lane 3, we have Keokuk's Aria Stevenson. Lane 4 from Cedar Rapids Wash, Mia Utzinger. Another Keokuk chief in lane 5, Malia Brumble. Again, that 200 free is one of those events where obviously you're right kind of in that middle between are you a sprinter or are you a distance swimmer, and it's all about keeping that pace. Anytime I did it, right after that 125 would come around to be like, oh crap, there's a lot more left, isn't there?
Yeah, when you're younger, when you're in grade school, it's a distance event, and when you get to high school and you get to college, it's a sprint event, and your coaches will tell you that it's a sprint event. And I remember I swam this once in a championship meet in college, and I decided to absolutely drop dead sprint the first 100 and flipped with the lead, and I think I got 7th or 8th in the heat because I didn't quite have the gumption to get home after the first 100.
Any swimmer will tell you that after that first 100 or after that first 150, the muscles and the fatigue sets in extremely, and that's why you see these swim practices go as hard as they do, with endurance, whether it be strength training or dry land, but that's why they swim, upwards of 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 yards every single practice, sometimes 2 a day. And certainly for the high caliber swimmers, you're taking a high school practice in the afternoon, your club practice in the morning. Obviously swimming, not necessarily the most visual spectator sport. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by my saying that, but certainly one of the most underappreciated in terms of the amount of work that goes into it for these athletes.
Yeah, I remember the shirt that was the slogan that was growing up was, if swimming were any easier, it'd be football. But yeah, just if you're a novice to swimming, we call this kind of a taper meet. And, Mike has mentioned Aurora and Scarlett and a few others. You're going to see them probably not have a fast suit on here because they don't need that extra speed to get into the state meet next week. So they'll be tapering for next week. So what do we mean by tapering? Well, you work hard, you put the work in, and then about 3 to 4 weeks out, you really start to come down in yardage. You do a lot more sprint work, a lot more focused on, the little stuff, the starts, the turns, and that kind of thing. And so all of these athletes should be rested, with the exception of maybe a few of our top athletes where they'll be rested for next week, because they don't have to be worried about making the state meet. At this meet, they can, they can kind of go through the motions here almost and make that qualifying time. But we're more focused on, a lot of these athletes, the majority of them are focused on getting there, and they're going to be well rested for this meet, and that's why you're going to see these time drops.
That was my favorite couple of weeks of practice when I was a swimmer. Coach would say, "All right, taper starting." All right.
Yeah, and you could get away with a lot during those weeks. You could say, mom and dad say, you got yard work, and say, "I'm on taper. Sorry, I got to rest." So.
And then another thing you mentioned too is the suits. The suits that these swimmers wear, and how much technology has advanced over, even the last 5 years, let alone the last 20 years, with how advanced these suits are, from propelling water away from them. Having the top caliber kind of suits, you really only want to wear them handful of times a year, otherwise they wear down. And I'm sure all you parents at home know just how expensive that these suits are to be able to put your son or daughter or whoever's competing in the best possible situation.
These are not cheap swimsuits. We're talking a couple $100 for these, and you're only wearing them 2, 3, 4 times. Yep. So.
Again, it was Mia Utzinger winning Heat 1 as we are ready for Heat 2 now. We have one in each lane except for lane 1 and 8, which I don't think we're going to have much of any today.
Yeah, I think they're trying to keep those open for the open water there in between, kind of a buffer.
Here in Heat 2, we have 2 freshmen holding on to the middle lanes. Cora Wheeler from Cedar Rapids, Washington, lane 4, and Caden Dermody, the Williamsburg freshman, in lane 5. Wheeler's the favorite for Heat 2, coming in with a seed time 2:26.69. First split, a 30:55. See how much she can keep up the pace. The state qualifying standard here in the 200 free is a 157.16.
So in that case, if anyone goes a 157.16 today, they are automatically entered into the state meet next week. Whether they got 8th at this district or 15th at this district, that qualifying time automatically gets them into the state meet next week. And then the qualifying times for last year for this event was 2:01.41, and then in 2018 it was 2:03.17. So you're going to see that those automatic times are fairly faster, especially in these longer events, than the qualifying time, and that's because you can actually qualify for the state meet at any point throughout the regular season. Now, the caveat to that is you still have to swim the event at districts, so you can't qualify for the 200 free and then swim 3 relays and then swim the 200 free next week. You still have to swim it. Now, if you go slower than 157.16 today and you went 155 3 weeks ago, that 155 is going to carry over, but you do still have to swim it today if you have already met that qualifying time earlier in the season.
All you have to do today is finish legally.
Correct.
As long as you swim the event and escape any sort of qualification. And it's interesting, as we look down the board, obviously we'll see Aurora Roger in Heat 4, but Scarlett Martin was a qualifier in the regular season. Heidi Stalkfleet from City High had a qualifying time in the regular season. Both of those girls are not listed in the 200-yard free here in Heat 4. So in terms of seed times, that was your second and fourth best time all year long, and they will not be competing in state because their coaches want to put them in different events. There is so much strategy that goes into, what events that these coaches want to put these girls in to help the team points out the most, as it's Wheeler for Wash bringing it home here in Heat 2 with a 2:18.87 final time. Hayden Dermody finishing second, just about 9 seconds off pace.
Yeah, so that's where it's tricky for coaches, is when you look at the Quick Stats site and you see all of the, you see Aurora and Scarlett and a few of these other top athletes in all of these events. Now you have to almost place yourself in the mind of Coach Byron Butler and go, okay, what are these guys actually going to be swimming? Because if you're one of those top teams that is competing for a state title, do you want to not necessarily waste an athlete, but do you want to put somebody against them at the state meet that they can't beat, or do you want to throw them in something else where they possibly have a chance at a state title and more team points? So that's really where it gets tricky, especially with these top athletes that have swam so many different things over the course of the regular season, trying to get in the mind of the coach and go, okay, where are they actually going to strategically put these people? Kind of the placing people on a chessboard and trying to figure out where your best moves are in regards to next week and where you can score.
Well, and then, we've seen Martin involved in the relays, Scarlett Martin, that is, in the relays today. And relays, if you end up in first place, those get you so many more team points than an individual.
It's double. Yep.
And I'm sure, head coach Byron Butler and both Roger and Marlin have conversations. Like we said, Martin won a state championship in one event last year. She's not even listed in it this year, where, you try and do what's best for the team. As we're ready to start Heat 3 of 4 here in the 200-yard freestyle. In lane 4, Lily Weber for Linmar comes in with the top seed time of this heat with a 2:08.98. Tipton Jr. Ryan Hofler in lane 5.
So, and just one more note on kind of that movement. What you have in your relays today is not what you need to have in your relays next week. So we didn't see Scarlett or Aurora in the medley relay earlier today. So they're going to swim the 200 free and the 400 free. But that doesn't mean that they can't swim the medley next week. So if Byron looks at that and says, I think we have a better chance if we split those and try to get maybe second or third versus maybe win one or two of them and get more points that way versus winning 2 of them and getting 8th or 9th in the next one, then they can do that. So what a lot of coaches will do is if they don't have a ton of depth, but they have 2 or 3 strong swimmers, is they'll split those up at districts, and then they'll combine them at state just to get those 3 relays into the state meet, and then move them around and say, okay, let's stack these 2, for lack of a better term, let's stack these 2 relays, try to score the most points, and then see if, that 4th and that 5th number swimmer can get plugged into there and try to get some points in that 3rd relay.
Tons of strategy, and it's been a while for any Cedar Rapids or Iowa City school winning the state championship just by my look on the sheet. I believe it was 1968 the last time an Iowa City school won the state championship. That was Iowa City High. Cedar Rapids, it's also been a while. Cedar Rapids-Wash won in 1984. So far, it's kind of been a western half of the state. Well, really central, western from here. Central half of the state domination the past couple of years. Dowling winning last year. And then, of course, Ames just running a gauntlet. And we'd be remiss to not mention what the Ames swimming program has been through this year with the loss of legendary head coach Dan Flannery. You're talking about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 titles in 9 years. Just one heck of a program out there in Ames and one heck of a coach that will be absolutely missed in this sport.
Yeah, great coach, better guy. Dan was an awesome guy. He's definitely going to be missed and is missed.
It's Ryan Hofler, winning from lane number 5, a 2:03.57. It's about 6 seconds off the state qualifying pace as we're getting ready for Heat 4 now. In Heat 4, it will be Lauren Williams, Jefferson's best swimmers, and then Iowa City West takes up lane 3, 4, and 5. Colby Reese in lane 3, Aurora Roquehair in lane 4, her sister Jade in lane 5, and then Linmar holds lane 6 and 7 with Lucy Hars and Emily Brennan. Of course, Roquehair, the defending state champion in this 200-yard free last year with a 1:48.40. That's second in state history. Her seed time this year, a 1:49.65, so just about a second off the pace. But again, we'll see what Roquehair is able to come to do, but we're not expecting too many state records here today with the way their training goes. That might happen next week in Marshalltown.
So, and a little bit of a weird quirk about the state records, you actually cannot set a state record
unless you're at state.
Unless you are at the state meet. So Aurora could go 1:42 today, and it's not a state record. She has to actually do that next week at the state meet. And we were talking about those automatic qualifying times, and all 3 City West girls have automatically qualified it for the 200 free in this event. They just have to make sure that they're legal here. But they're also fighting for seed time, too. So, with Colby Reese at 1:56.99, she's only 0.2 of a second under the qualifying time. So she wants to actually get that faster so she's in a better spot next week in Marshalltown.
About seed times, and what do seed times translate to? Your lanes. And you know just as well how important is a lane being in those middle lanes now where the current isn't, coming in on you or converging in on you. You're spreading it out to everyone else, giving you that much of advantage as the first split for Roquehair, Aurora Roquehair, that is, at 25-12.
Yeah, and especially in the 50 free we'll see later, if you're in one of those outside lanes in the 50 free, you just get destroyed off that wake coming back in. So it's really important that you almost want to be in that second heat instead of lane 1 or 8 of the fast heat so you don't get rolled by that wake.
52.37 first 100 for Aurora Roquehair. Jade right behind her, just about 2.5 seconds behind. In third place, looks like a tie with Lauren Williams in lane 2 and Lucy Hars in lane 6. Colby Reese also right there in lane 3 for Iowa City West as Roquehair's into the last 50.
And Lauren is actually the school record holder at Jefferson for both the 200 free and the 100 free, so she's trying to get that record lower here too.
Again, into the final flip turn for Aurora Roquehair. The clock sits at about 1:39, 1:40. Her seed time, once again, coming in was 1:49.65. Looks like she's going to come really close to that time. A 1:49.49, so she does improve on her seed time. Of course, it doesn't look like any hands are up from any officials, so finishing legally are all swimmers of this heat, at least as it looks right now. Everybody on the start looks good. So as we try and count up who might have a state qualifying time here under 1:57.16, Lauren Williams gets in with a 1:56.59. Jade Roquehair, again, was already in. She finished second in this heat, a 1:55.34. Lucy Hars,
just missed.
a 1:57.22. That is 6/100ths of a second off the time for the qualifying standards.
Now, she should be in pretty good shape.
And again, now as you mentioned before we started, now it's just about holding your breath, waiting a couple hours, and seeing where the chips will fall.
Yeah, and last year's qualifying time was 2:01:41. She should be pretty safe. She should be feeling okay. She did get fourth here in the district. We mentioned, fourth or fifth range with 7 districts. She should be in pretty good condition there. And as we said, Colby Reese went 159.71, but she was already under the 157.16, so she should be okay there. She'll take that 156.99 into the state meet next week.
So we have our public address announcer, Corey Haars, talking about the awards from the 200-yard medley relay. Again, it's just a weird environment. You're used to some applause there, and we're not really getting anything from the teammates. Just a weird environment. We're all going to have to get used to it. Next week's going to be weird, too. We've got let's see, we're done with the 200-yard free. We've got the 200-yard individual medley coming up next after we take a short break. You're watching live high school swimming right here on KCRG 9.2. Nope, never mind. I spoke too soon. As we want to take a look at the certificates being awarded first, my apologies. Going to give our producer a heart attack here, and we're just getting started as we take a look at the Trojans. Maybe that's why there's no applause yet. It's just a little too early on the gun.
And hopefully all the parents at home can get the screenshot of this, because this always made me laugh this time when I was coaching, because it was always picture time, right? You had everybody up in front taking pictures. So,
well, now I've got the clearance. We'll be back in just a little bit with the 200-yard IM. You're watching live high school swimming on KCRG 9.2.
Swimming and diving on KCRG 9.2, proudly sponsored by Cedar Rapids Toyota and HRT Building and Remodeling.
Through 2 events here today, Linn-Mar holds on to the team lead with 121 points. Iowa City West in second, 114 points, followed by Cedar Rapids Wash, and then Iowa City High. Wash was 73, City High was 66, as we are getting ready here for event number 3 on the day. Event number 4, officially speaking, in terms of the regional lineup, the 200-yard IM, we will have 3 heats. And again, it's that gauntlet of an Iowa City West lineup that we're looking for in Heat 3, with 3 girls, Michaela Hayek, Olivia Tager, and Jenny Gang, all with fantastic times. And then we're going to see Linn-Mar's stud sophomore Haley Kimmel, who burst onto the scene last year as a freshman. A fantastic breaststroker, will certainly be a competitor for that state title this year. And, if you can be that high caliber in one stroke, it certainly gives you that much more of an advantage in an event like the IM. Yeah,
and we should have a great final heat of this. We have the 2 Iowa City West girls, Michaela and Olivia, are both around 212.3, 212.6, and then Haley's at 212.72. So should be a really exciting swim here for the district title, and just all 3 of them are under the automatic qualifying time already. The automatic qualifying time for the 200 IM, if you want to write this down, is 2:13:53. So that's what the time you're rooting for if you have an athlete in the 200 IM. And then last year's qualifying time was 2:18:89, so about 5 seconds slower than the automatic qualifying time. And then 2 years ago, the qualifying time for top 32 was 2:17:94. So, the last 2 years it's been between 2:18 flat and 2:19 flat. So if you're under 2:18, you're probably okay based off of the 2 years of data. But, if you can get down to that 2:13:53 and not have to sweat the next couple hours, that would be good too.
Again, this is just one of those weird events when you look at the seed times from the entire year. This was an event that, once again, just continuing on theme, that Aurora Rogue and Scarlett Martin were time number 1 and 2. Scarlett Martin, the defending state champion in this event, not swimming here tonight, so she will, or not swimming in this event, rather, this afternoon, and obviously will not be swimming at state in that event. But certainly it's part of that strategy for head coach Byron Butler, who's now going to try and get Michaela and Olivia into state, try and get any team points. If you take out Aurora and Scarlett Martin, as well as taking out Heidi Stalkfleet from City High, who has again had one of those top times, that opens up 3 spots in that top 10-ish range where you hope that swimmers like Hayek or Tager might be able to jump in. Hayek, like you mentioned, a 2:12.3. That sat in 13th place in the state, but again, you'd start taking out swimmers who aren't qualifying this year for various reasons, and we don't really exactly know what's going on in the other regional events, but certainly another opportunity come next week for Iowa City West to try and score some points. But before we get to Heat 3, we got to go through Heat 2 and then Heat 1, which we're about to kick off here. Megan Vandergast of Tipton, the freshman in lane 3. We have 3 freshmen in this one. Amina DeWitt from Williamsburg in lane 4, and Avery Mann in lane 5 from Iowa City High. Amina DeWitt comes in with the top seed time here in Heat 1, a 2:39.48.
So, if you're new to swimming, the 200 IM is a 50 yards of each stroke. So the order of this event is 50 butterfly, 50 backstroke, 50 breaststroke, and 50 freestyle. So it's similar to the 200 medley that you saw, the medley relay that you saw a little while ago, but the order is a little bit different.
I was always not very envious of the swimmers who took part in the 200 IM. Talked about the 200 free and how hard it might be to pace yourself in an event and in a race like that, let alone the 200-yard IM, where each stroke drains you a little bit differently than the other strokes are, so you really have to know what you're good at and how to conserve yourself. That 50 free, it's basically just an all-out gasping effort by the end of that last 50.
Well, and the inventor of the event didn't do any favors when they put the fly at the very beginning, because now you're going to be gassed for the other three strokes. But one thing that you do want to look out for in this event is just what you said before, Mike, which is you do have strengths and weaknesses here. So you might, for example, when we get into Heat 3, Haley is a breaststroker. So, I always told athletes during this event that you want to almost focus the most on your weakest stroke, because that's where you're going to lose the most ground, is your weakest stroke. And, your strongest stroke is going to be there. Haley is going to have the 50 breaststroke. So with her, especially next week, she's going to want to make sure that she stays within striking distance and fly and backstroke, and then put the hammer down in breaststroke and really, either catch or go by people that have maybe a little bit stronger first halves of those with the butterfly and the backstroke.
This is Amina DeWitt, the freshman from Williamsburg, holding on to just about a 2 body length lead here. However, Avery Mann is certainly closing that gap here with the breaststroke as we head into that final 50.
You have
final 100.
You have to touch with 2 hands in the butterfly and the breaststroke. You have to touch on your back on the backstroke. So those are some rules for this event.
And again, up next after this 200-yard IM is probably the most friendly spectator event of all, the 50-yard freestyle. You can't really see any swimmer in the water by the amount of splashing that goes on there. I'm excited to see it, just one big cluster.
I always teased athletes in the 50 free that, and not teased, I just kind of made the comment that, in the Olympics, if you win the 50 free, you're known as the fastest swimmer in the world if you win the 50. So we had an athlete in Dubuque who won the men's 50 free, Ben Luffelholtz, a number of years ago, and I always teased him at our club practices that he was the fastest man in Iowa because he won the 50 free.
Good. It's not technically wrong.
Correct. Right.
It looks like here in this last leg with the free, Amina DeWitt has continued to grow onto her lead.
And this is where that training comes in, this last 25, 35 yards of the 200 IM and the 200 freestyle and the 500 freestyle.
As DeWitt touches the pad, 236.55 for a first-place heat finish. Avery Mann in second from City High, a 2:41.49, just about 5 seconds off DeWitt's pace. And in comes Megan Vandergast for Tipton to finish third.
2 time drops for those 2 ladies. And also a time drop for Megan over in lane 3 from Tipton. So nice job by all 3 of those.
And as a coach, at this point in the season, this is the final meet that a lot of these swimmers are going to be competing in, the ones that don't qualify for state. Certainly for 3 freshmen like we just saw in Heat 1, that's all you're looking for, exactly what you're looking for. Just drop a time because, some of the coaching maybe it differs for a lot of the swimmers in the past couple of weeks where you have, these top-end caliber swimmers who are going to go to state are being treated, on a taper for next week, whereas, maybe some of these freshmen and sophomores were knowing that this was going to be their last meet. Maybe that taper kind of ends today for the most part. Is that fair?
Yeah, and for those 3 ladies that just swam the 200 IM, they're not going to state next week, but it's something, it's momentum to build into next season. Like you said, they're all freshmen. So putting up a good time and being able to carry that positive momentum into either your club season or into next fall in their sophomore high school season is really important, because you don't want to leave with a sour taste in your mouth with adding time and not having a very good swim.
Heat 2 of 3, we have a swimmer in every lane that we'll have available here today. Abby Jones and Sophie Lenzer in 4 and 5, both from Cedar Rapids, Washington. Jones, a sophomore, Lenzer, a senior. In lane 3, we have Linmar's Micah Paulette, where if you're not familiar with that name, easily can be qualified as one of the best athletes in the state, a fantastic cross-country runner and distance track runner, let alone be able to compete in swimming during the same season as her cross-country season. You have to have some kind of mentality to want to do that.
Yeah, that's
in a good way.
Feat.
I mean that in the best way.
Right.
For Micah Paulette, who's a senior, so finished off her cross-country career just last week, looking to finish her swimming career off on a strong note before we head into the winter sports season, and then we'll see her again on the track season next fall. Next spring.
And remember, the automatic qualifying time is 2:13.53 here, but Abby was 2:23.98 coming into this, and last year's qualifying time was 18:89, so she's got a chance to get right around that with a good swim here.
Again, those 2 wash swimmers out in front. Abby Jones with a 104.59 first 100. And nipping at her heels is Sophie Lenzer in lane 5 with the breaststroke up.
And you want to watch these underwaters on the breaststroke too. The more distance you can get on those underwaters, the better off you're going to be. And it is, especially in a race like the 200 IM, it's tough to get those underwaters because you are so tired. And the best breaststrokers and the best IMers can hold and extend that underwater for a lot longer. And that's what you're going to see that in the next heat. Those best underwaters are probably going to be the people that are going to finish towards the front of the race. It's a great swim for Abby, I'm sorry.
Into the final 25 with a major lead. Abby Jones, again, we talked about 2:13.53 is the time to look out for in terms of the state qualifying time. Abby Jones will not hit that mark, but certainly not very far off. 2:18.43 as Jones hits the wall to win heat number 2. Sophie Lenzer in second, 2:23.54. Micah Paulette in third, a 2:26.69.
So now for Abby, it's one of those situations where she sits back now and watches heat 3, and you never want to cheer against people, but she wants to see...
You know what your odds are going to be
right.
if all 7 swimmers in heat 3
right.
kind of
She
beat
wants
you.
to see some slower swims maybe in heat 3 to help her chances to make the state meet next week. But again, remember, 2:18.89 last year. She's under that by about 0.5 of a second, so she's got a shot, and that's what you want is... you just want to you almost want to be able to sweat that out, right? Obviously you would want the automatic qualifying time, but you want to give yourself a shot. And Abby gave herself a shot to hear her name called in a couple hours when the state tabulates all this stuff. Hopefully faster than some of the states have done for our election. But
I heard that closed up today.
Yeah, I did. I heard that too. Yeah. So thank you to all the volunteers out there that helped with that.
Absolutely.
So we get our first look here at Haley Kimmel. swimming an individual event. She's one of the athletes that we highlighted at the top of the show.
And again, as most watching from home, at least if you follow swimming, you kind of know how times work. When you look at these 3 times in these middle lanes, 2:12:33, 2:12:62, 2:12:72, that's Kimmel up there in lane 3. Those are extraordinarily close times for an event such as the 200 IM. It would make a little more sense if, hey, 50 free or 100 free where you don't have as much time to pull away from the rest of the pack. But between, tenths of a second and the 200 IM, we are expecting an absolute tight finish here in this heat.
Yep, so you're looking at lanes 3, 4, and 5 here are the ones that are all around, coming in around 2:12. And so far early on, Haley is doing what we expected and touching first here after the 50 fly.
Also not to be forgotten in lane 7, Sydney Jones, who taps in their second place after that first 50 fly. And then here into the backstroke, even takes what looks like a very short lead over Kimmel here into the backstroke. Her and Kimmel are neck and neck into that 75-yard mark.
Yeah,
again, Sydney Jones from Wash, she came in a seed time 2:21.85, way off the mark. So we'll see what she's able to do here in this final 100. But right now, neck and neck with the leader.
Yeah, great open for Sydney.
59.84 first 100 for Sydney Jones. That is in first place with Kimmel right behind her, 0.06 of a second. Michaela Hayek and Olivia Tager right behind them in third and fourth. Again, Sydney Jones is not really losing too much ground. Obviously, we knew Kimmel was going to have an advantage over every swimmer in the pool when it came to the breaststroke. But Jones so far holding on to that second spot.
And Hayek's coming up
But
here
here comes
in 4.
Hayek, exactly. Kimmel's now extended her lead to about 2 body lengths as she heads into her last 50 free. Hayek and Jones really touch the pad at the same time.
So you see
2
there,
100ths of a second separating Jones and Michaela Hayek.
So you see there, Jones touched first, and Haley outsplit her by 3.5 seconds on the breaststroke. So that shows you what a strong leg of this event can actually do for you.
And again, now here comes Olivia Tager fighting for that third place finish as Kimmel looks like she will take this easily. The battle now is for third between Tager and Jones. Who will touch first? Looks like Tager has an edge on the last 10 yards, and she will come home with the third place finish. Haley Kimmel first, a 2:08.64. That will qualify. Michaela Hayek, a 2:10.84. That will also qualify. Olivia Tager, a 2:13.17. That is just also underneath the mark. And Sydney Jones, a 2:13.65. That is about 1/10 too slow for that state qualifying time. So again, the pressure is on Jones to wait on tonight and to see those final scores. We've got a lot of that going around, and I can only imagine what the rest of that afternoon and evening will look like for the Jones family.
So we've seen 2 of those now. We saw one in the 200 free with 6 100ths of a second, and now we saw Sydney there with 12 100ths of a second. But, taking nothing away from that swim, she dropped 8 seconds in the 200 IM. That's a terrific swim. She should be, she didn't hit that automatic Q time, but she should be pretty safe.
Right there.
Yeah,
absolutely,
she should be pretty
right
safe.
There. And again, not really losing any ground because the 3 that did hit that qualifying time had already done it.
And
so not really any surprises there.
That race there was a perfect illustration of what we were talking about, which is, Lauren was in first place after the 50 fly and the 50 backstroke, and she ended up finishing. I don't know. She finished fourth.
Yeah. She was neck and neck with Kimmel after that first 100, and then what you saw, as we see now, Aurora Rogue here getting her certificate for winning the 200-yard freestyle. Again, she had a final time of 1:49.40 time, beating her seed time of a 1:49.65. So by about 0.15 of a second. Again, Rogue here, an easy automatic state qualifier for next week's meet in Marshalltown. Up next after the break, it's the big one, the 50-yard freestyle, everybody's favorite event. You're watching live high school swimming right here on KCRG 9.2.
Swimming and diving, proudly sponsored by Community First Credit Union, Eels and Tronvold Law Offices, and Waln Collision Center in Fairfax.
Again, we have a little brief break here before we start the 50-yard freestyle, maybe about 2 to 3 minutes left before we get that event going, as we just completed the 200-yard individual medley. Linn-Mar's Haley Kimmel earning 20 points for the hometown Lions with her automatic qualifying time of a 2:08.64. Her seed time was a 2:12.72, beating that seed time by 4 seconds. That is impressive.
Yeah, and it will bode well for her next week, hopefully being somewhere in the middle in Marshalltown for that fast seed of the 200 IM. But, you wouldn't expect that. She's probably not fully rested because she already had the qualifying time. So dropping, 4 seconds here bodes well next week for if she isn't fully rested, which I'm purely speculating, but if she already has the queue time, then it would stand to reason that she's probably rested but not fully rested for this meet and should be fully rested next week. So
that's dangerous to think about.
Yeah.
Not fully rested here, and you beat your time by 4 seconds. What does fully rested do for you?
Right. And going back to Aurora Rocare's time in the 200 free for a second, she actually missed the pool record, her own pool record that she held by 3/100ths of a second. So pool record was 149.46, and she went 149.49. So I'm sure she's probably okay with that, but since she already holds the record, but pretty close there, so that tells you what kind of swim she had.
Again, we touch on so frequently, the caliber of swimmers that Scarlett Martin and Aurora Rogare are. We talked about when you look at the statistics, how riddled all over their names are, and like you just mentioned, when you look at the pool record here, right there on your television, you can't quite really make out what the names are maybe because it's a little too far away, but I'm telling you, both on the boys and on the girls' side on that pool record, there's a lot of ICWs all over there, which I'm sure Linn-Mar would like to change, and certainly no better person to change it with Haley Kimmel, who has her name up there, a conference record. Looks like in the 200 IM that was swum here, but and Kelsey Drake, who is an absolutely fantastic swimmer here for the Lions back in 2014. Again, but we're going to get ready here for the 50-yard freestyle. The swimmers are getting out of the pool after their brief warm-up. We've got 4 heats of the 50 free. Again, the ones to look out for: Rika Yahashiri and Ella Hostetler. Yahashiri from Iowa City High and Hostetler from Iowa City West. But again, anything can happen in the 50 free. But before that, quick word from one of our sponsors.
Give your home a beautiful new look with a custom home project by HRT Building and Remodeling, a division of Home Repair Team. Our certified remodeling team can design, build, and install any home project, large or small. Transform your home with a beautiful state-of-the-art kitchen, an elegant custom-designed bathroom, an entertainment environment for the whole family, or a spacious addition. Call HRT Building and Remodeling and Home Repair Team today.
Mike O'Brien alongside Jake Gantenbein here at Linn-Mar Aquatic Center for one of 7 regional championships going on around the state, all taking place today. The diving finished on Thursday night. That was also right here on KCRG 9.2, and the swimming will take us the rest of the way before we get to the state championship next week at the Marshalltown YMCA. The finals for both diving and swimming 1 week from today. I believe diving starts right around noon, if I'm not mistaken, and swimming, I believe, at around 3 or 4, the finals would begin.
You're looking for automatic qualifying time here in the 50 free is 24.84. A little bit different for this event than our first 2 individual events. We only have 1 underneath that cut, and that would be Rika from Iowa City High. We have a few that are close, but only 1 that has the automatic qualifying time. So look for that. Last year's qualifying time, last year's time to get in was 25.26. And actually the year before, which this is crazy, the year before was also 25.26. So talking about a little bit of consistency there with the 50 free. So if you're under 25.26, you probably got a pretty good shot at making a state meet.
As a coach for the 50 freestyle, we've seen a relay, which we're going to kind of throw out for this argument's sake, and then we've seen the 200-yard freestyle. We talked about pacing, 200-yard IM. Pacing involved also just technique, playing to your strengths. When you get to the 50-yard freestyle, how much different is that for a mentality of a swimmer where it's really just an all-out burst, breathe as little as possible, and more so than any event, the start and the turn are just so crucially important for these swimmers to work on and practice, as the difference of 1/10 or 2/10 of a second can mean all the difference in an event like the 50 free.
Start, turn, and finish. That's what you're looking for. Looking for fast off the block, hitting that flip turn, getting out, getting a good underwater off that flip turn, and then putting the head down and getting into the finish. And you know, it really could make the difference between taking one extra breath or not as well. So, you know, figuring out what your breathing pattern is going to be before you get in the pool. So I'm going to breathe mid-pool. I'm not going to breathe again until I come back mid-pool, right before the flags, and then take those 3 breaths or 2 breaths, or maybe I've had athletes who haven't taken any breaths.
This is heat 2 of 4 here in the 50 free. Williamsburg freshman Laura Carrico, the top seed time here in this heat. She's in lane 4. Linmar's Quinn Felber, the senior, comes in lane 5, seed time of a 28.94. But out of the turn, Avery Loftus from City High, the freshman, out in front with the lead, and looks like she'll maintain the lead all the way to the finish. As Avery Loftus, a 27.52.
Nice swim there.
Almost a second and a half off of her seed time. Very fantastic swim.
Yeah, especially for a 50 free. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention this. Williamsburg and Cedar Rapids Jefferson are actually co-op programs. So Williamsburg shares with Clear Creek Amana, and then Cedar Rapids Jefferson swims with Prairie. So they're combined. So
Iowa City West as well with Iowa City Liberty.
Yeah,
the new school out of that's been around for 3 or 4 years now. Have a couple Liberty students swimming for Iowa City West. It's always I don't know, maybe a weird thing for some of these swimmers. I've never been in that position to, any other sport. You're like, oh, West High's my rivals. I hate them. And then, sure enough, come to swim season, you're wearing that green and gold W on your head.
Yeah, so it's funny. I swam for a co-op, and I also had, when I was coaching at senior, we also had a co-op with West Dubuque. So I'm pretty familiar with it. And, you would think that it's a little tricky in regards to school spirit and everything else. It is not. Once you get into the situation, it's the athletes are pretty inviting, and if you're going to help their team, they're going to be pretty quick to accept you. We had some of our faster swimmers when I was coaching at senior were from West Dubuque. Molly Lembazeder and Jenna Willer were 2 of them, and they both actually swam D1 at UNI. So, if you have athletes that are that fast, you're pretty quick to accept that.
It also brings into the conversation too. Obviously, we all know, but certainly, I would like to get across the point that these swimmers are just so dedicated to their craft with the amount of practice and swimming that goes into it. But also with a co-op, when you're talking about, Williamsburg and Clear Creek Amana, or Prairie and Jefferson, not terribly far away, Iowa City West Liberty, those are also, increased driving times to practices from wherever your residence is or wherever you live. That, just, again, solidifies that dedication to your sport, as it looks like the winner coming from lane 3. Lucy Fab from Wash just edges out Silene Rizard from Linmar by 1/10 of a second to win Heat 3 at 26.56. It's just about over a second and a half from the state qualifying time. Again, as we near the start of heat number 4, we'll read that time off to you again. 24.84 is the mark to look out for. And so far, Rika Yahashiri in lane 4, the only swimmer to reach that mark earlier in the season, so she has qualified, as barring any kind of disqualification here. As long as she finishes, she will be headed off to state. But right near that time, Ella Hostetler, a 24.92 is a seed time, so just under 1/10 of a second off. And then Lauren Trent from Iowa City West comes in a hair over 26 seconds, as is Haley Noel, also from Iowa City West. So you have that City High Little Hawk in lane 4 surrounded by 3 Trojans right next to her.
Again, you want to watch the start and the breakout here, that first stroke off of the start, and see, it helps to be tall, too. Rika looks pretty tall.
Zoe Stonebreaker, the senior from Tipton, out in lane 2, and Ellie Thompson, Cedar Rapids Wash, the senior, closest on your screen in lane 7.
So if you saw Ella got that real good start, had that good underwater, and she's going to flip first
you
because
can
of
see
it.
has at least an arm length lead there just off that start alone. And what a turn there from Hostetler.
Great turn. Great turn.
Hostetler looking to finish strong right in front of Yahashiri, and it will be Hostetler coming away with the win, a 24:34. That is a state qualifying time. Rika Yahashiri, a 24:72, slows up a bit from her seed time, but again, as long as she finished without any kind of controversy, she was already headed to state. But all smiles, as you see there, from Ellie Hostetler, where in the 50 free you don't ordinarily see quite a gap like that. But again, like we mentioned, it was the start, the turn, and the finish, and Hostetler was strong in all three.
Yeah, that was a great swim. She nailed the start there. She was out. She had about an arm's, like you had mentioned during the race, had an arm's length lead. Then when she flipped, it was great. Had a great flip, had a great underwater. She did take a breath a couple strokes before the flags, and that's where you saw that Rika gained a little bit of ground there, but she was able to get in there and finish first. And one thing you do want to look out for too is, we mentioned that there's with 7 districts and 32 spots, 4th or 5th is where you kind of want to be. But then if you look at and compare times from the past couple of years, you might only get 2 people in the 50 free that are qualifying out of this district. And on the other side of that, you might get 6 or 7 out of the 200 IM. We had a ton of fast swims in the 200 IM in that previous event that were all, it's showing up on the scoreboard now. The 6th place finisher was Ella Wagner at 2:16.41. She's 2 seconds under the qualifying time, whereas in that 50 free, the 3rd place finisher was 25.96. That's 7/10 slower than the qualifying time was last year for 30 seconds. So again, we caution in saying 4th or 5th will probably get you there, because other districts in the 50 are going, we just picked up 2 extra spots, because in the Linn-Mar Regional, there might only have 2 people that qualify.
Especially with the amount of strong programs that are swimming out east and swimming out west in the central part of the state, as we're looking at Haley Kimmel there. Nice elbow bump with her coach. Mask being worn. You can tell there's still a smile under there for Kimmel. State qualifying time, 2:08.64. We will see the sophomore from Linn-Mar next week in Marshalltown. We've got the 100-yard butterfly coming up next, but quickly, another short break. You're watching live high school swimming right here on KCRG 9.2. Welcome back to the Linn-Mar Aquatic Center, where we have a little more of an extended break here following the 50-yard freestyle. I believe it was 20 minutes overall. We're probably about 5 minutes into that before we get into the 100-yard butterfly once we start resuming. And there is Haley Kimmel, the Linn-Mar sophomore. Again, the time of 2:08.64, winning the 200-yard individual medley. Just, again, a fantastic time, shedding 4 seconds off of her seed time in that event, easily qualifying for state. She was already there, also earning 20 points for the Linn-Mar Lions, who actually have fallen into second place when we look at the team scores. The Lions with 188 and Iowa City West with 210. Ella Hostetler just winning the 50-yard freestyle, earning 20 points for Iowa City West, whereas Rika Yahashiri for City High also scoring some team points for City High with 17, and those are the 2 automatic state qualifiers. So far, Jake, we've seen some fast times, a lot of state qualifiers. What's impressed you the most?
Yeah, I think there's not been a whole lot of surprises in the fact that all the ladies are swimming very well. I think some of the wash swimmers have impressed me. They're in 3rd place right now with their team score. Lauren Jones is her swim in the IM was really impressive. I don't think either one of us expected her to touch first after the 100 IM, or after the 100. Sydney Jones, I'm sorry. And then Lauren Williams, her 200 free was impressive as well. We don't want to, we don't want to keep harping on the obvious of, Haley has been impressive, and Aurora's first swim in the 200 free was impressive. We haven't seen Miss Martin yet for Iowa City West.
We will soon.
We will soon. Yes, we will soon in the 100 fly. That's the scary thing for Linn-Mar if you're trying to win a regional title, is that you're 22 points down and you've seen them once, those 2 one time, not in a relay and only one individual event. So they're lurking. if you will.
If the chips fall where we expect them to, now that Iowa City West has gained a lead, we wouldn't expect them to relinquish that lead throughout the rest of the meet. Maybe a couple heats here and there, but again, we haven't seen the individual events yet for Scarlett Martin, but we will here in the 100-yard butterfly, and then Aurora Roquer still to swim again individually in the 500-yard freestyle. And then, of course, Iowa City West, the favorite for the relays. But again, Iowa City West, their goal right now isn't to win a regional title. It's to get on the podium for a state title. That's where their focuses are. Let's recap a little bit of that first part of our swim meet here today with some highlights from these first 4 events. Looks like we are going to start with the 200-yard medley relay. Again, this is actually from Heat 2, the winning Heat 2. We're off the top of my head, I believe
that was Iowa City West.
Or the final heat, yeah. So that was Iowa City West. And then here we have the freestyle,
and that was
200-yard Aurora Roquer. Again, automatic state qualifying time added her sister Jade Roquer and Logan Williams. Lauren Williams, rather. And there's Kimmel, a 2:08.64 final time for the 200-yard individual medley, or individual 200 IM, that is, and then the 50-yard freestyle there. Emma Hostetler just edging out Rika Yahashiri. Again, Hostetler and Yahashiri were the 2 favorites coming in, but it was Hostetler that the start she had automatically coming out of the water an arm's length ahead of Yahashiri and then maintaining it the rest of the way for an impressive swim there.
Yeah, and that was the difference. You could see there in that highlight at the very end of the finish there. Rika was closing, and Ella was strong enough there in the start and strong enough at the wall down at the 25 to kind of maintain that. It's always funny to watch those because you wonder as both an athlete and also as a coach, you wonder if that is a 55-yard swim, is there a different outcome? But you can't, it's not. It's a 50-yard swim, so Ella did a good job of holding off Rika there in that 50-free.
Again, for your Tipton fans, you'll be happy to know that Zoe Stonebreaker also finished in 3rd in that 50-yard free, the seed time of 25.96. Again, that state qualifying time, 24.84, so just a second off of that pace, but that 3rd place finish, that number 3 overall in a regional is going to help your cause. But again, it's just the next couple hours here when these regional results start getting reported from these other regional locations. It's you just hold your breath and hope, and that's basically all you can do.
And for those of you that have followed women's swimming here in Iowa for a long time, you would know that this is different than it has been. We're only a couple of years in of having 32 qualifiers. It used to be 24 qualifiers, so they added 8 qualifiers, and we also never used to have an automatic qualifying time. We used to have where the division, the regional winners would automatically qualify, and that was it. So everybody would have to sweat for 2-3 hours, no matter, unless you won your regional, you had to sweat. Because they didn't have that automatic qualifying time until a couple years ago.
Again, up next, the 100-yard butterfly. We're going to have 3 heats in that, and Scarlett Martin will be headlining that 3rd and final heat, a seed time of 54.99.
And Scarlett
Martin, by far and away, the top seed in the heat, also top seed in the state. When you look at the rest of the state, Ames is Abby McCorkle sits in 2nd in terms of seed times across the state, a 57.39. Again, Martin 3 seconds ahead of that. That is why she's going to the University of Florida. We're going to talk about her in a little bit, but we're going to have a quick word from the Iowa Girls High School Association Union.
The Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union encourages positive behavior.
Pride, respect, leadership, and sportsmanship on the court and in the stands.
Remember what a great privilege it is to see your team compete.
Thank you for your attendance and enjoy the game.
Enjoy the game.
Enjoy the game.
Forgive me, the athletic union, called it the association union. There's just a lot of letters, a lot of acronyms, and still haven't, ever since I moved here, still haven't gotten over the fact that We have 2.
Yeah, and we're one of the only one. We may be the only
I think
one.
we are the only one, and that's maybe another conversation for another day. But certainly the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union, we thank for their partnership in being able to broadcast this meet here today, especially the diving meet, as well on Thursday here on KCRG 9.2. Traditionally, ordinarily, we don't really do much postseason stuff. That's due to a variety of reasons, different contracts, different opportunities, but certainly right here at the Linn-Mar Aquatic Center with the situation not having spectators involved, and obviously the majority of the spectators, all of you parents and family relatives at home, we wanted to jump onto this opportunity, and certainly a thanks goes out to everybody on the KCRG team for making this happen, everybody here at Linn-Mar, the athletic directors making this happen, and certainly the partnership with the IGH SAU for allowing us to be here and to broadcast this event and to show the action that so many people I know are missing and want to be here for this. And if you like it, please give us any kind of feedback, whether it be email. A lot of our email addresses are just first name dot last name at kcrg.com. Reach out to us on Facebook on the KCRG page and on Twitter at KCRG, at KCRG_sports. If you want us to keep doing this, if you want us to come back to future swim meets where hopefully all of you spectators are back here with us, we don't want to get used to this any more than any of you guys do in terms of watching from home and watching the meet here without any spectators. However, we still do want to come back, and I believe that's going to start with feedback. So please let us know how you're doing. Let us know what we're doing right, what you'd like us to improve on. Be nice with your words, We're trying our best here. I'm going to say that, but I'm certainly having a lot of fun. Jake, I hope you're having a lot of fun as well. And again, we're really only halfway through. Still a lot of swimming left here this afternoon.
We will only accept positive feedback.
All negative feedback goes to the trash bin.
Right, there you go. But yeah, we're thrilled to be here. We wish everybody else out there would be able to be here as well, because it would be packed. I mean, we would be packed if this was a regular year. It's obviously not a regular year. But it's great to be able to showcase this great sport. I've been around this sport since I was a wee little lad, and it's a great sport. We've mentioned it a bunch of times already today, but these athletes work so hard and put so much work into it, just like all the sports. But there's a lot of hard work that's put into it, and we're happy that we can showcase these great athletes.
Looks like our officials are lining up Heat 1 for the 100-yard butterfly, but will be after we get our awards for the 50-yard freestyle, where we will see Ella Hostetler get her certificate. As we are waiting for our public address announcer, Corey Haars, who's now going through the lineup. Again, Hostetler, a final time, 24:34.
Corey's a pro at this. Corey's done this for a lot of club meets, a lot of high school meets. He actually has a daughter that swims for Linn-Mar, Lily. We'll see her in the next heat, the 100 fly. She'll be in heat 2, lane 4 of this 100 fly coming up.
For those looking for state context, Hostetler's final time of a 24:34. If that was her seed time, and let's put that as her new seed time going to state, that would put her in fourth place, actually, or fifth place, fifth best time so far in the state. However, as is the case with a lot of events, Aurora Rogair and Scarlett Martin have the top 2 seed times in terms of statistics. But as you know, they didn't swim that event today, so throw their 2 times out. It's actually Hostetler sitting in third. Again, we don't actually know what times might be being reported from other regional districts, but certainly happy news for head coach Byron Butler, as well as Hostetler headed into next week's state tournament.
Yeah, there's a good chance that she'll be in that top heat next week, those top 8. So Ella getting her, I guess it's
we got a little more applause than we've had.
Yeah.
A couple of the others. It seemed like that was coming from just underneath us, where the Iowa City West Trojans are kind of stationed. Teams are stationed sporadically throughout the entire aquatic center here at Linn-Mar. Seats, trying to be their best 6 feet apart. Everybody's doing their part to try and adhere to some new protocols and new guidelines that are new for everybody, whether it's the officials, the coaches, the scorers, the athletes, everybody involved here definitely doing their best.
I'm not biased at all with swimming, but they are the smartest of all athletes. So it's good that they're wearing their masks and everything else.
And again, there are certain sites that I don't want to get used to, and I won't let myself get used to.
Right.
You see the swimmers exiting on the left side, which is something they've been doing all year. You can't really see it on the shot we have now. There's 5 lanes in the warm-up section next to that, and they each have plastic barriers. Perhaps we can maybe get a shot of that following this heat, later, or following the event later in the meet. We can kind of show you. A lot of teams have been practicing like that. That's kind of acting as a divider for the lanes, so you're not talking back and forth with each other. And then the other thing, like you said, wearing your masks. A lot of these girls bring their masks up to the starting blocks. They put them in a little baggie and have them wait there. And then when they finish, they take that baggie, swim it across, and exit. So you see them kind of casually swimming across with just this random bag in their hand. It's just weird times.
Nothing is normal.
It's
Nothing is
2020.
normal.
It's weird. But hey, the swimmers are swimming, and that's what we care about most. Heat 1 of 3 is underway here in the 100-yard butterfly. Cora Wheeler, the freshman from Cedar Rapids Wash, out in front by 1 body length. She's out in front of her teammate, Claudia Gay, the junior, also from Wash.
So automatic qualifying time for this event is 59:69. 2019 top 32 was 1:01:35. In 2018 it was 1:01:36. So data would suggest that around that 101 number, a 101 low, is probably going to be pretty safe for you to get into the state meet next weekend.
As we're into the last 15 yards here, Wheeler trying to hang on to her lead.
We have 3 girls in Heat 3 that have all qualified for next week. Ella Hostetler, who we saw win the 50 free, and then Scarlett 54.99, and then Heidi Stalkfleet, she also has a qualifying time of 57.65, and then Karen Lee from Iowa City West, freshman, she's close. She's about a second off that automatic time.
Now, in your opinion, when we don't have, or I don't know if you have accessible, I don't think so, the numbers beyond or prior to 2018, but when you look at a lot of these qualifying times, certainly here for the 100-yard butterfly, hovering right around 101, and then it drops down to 59. How does it drop 2 seconds? Are you looking at a top time of, Scarlett Martin couldn't be weighing it down by that much. Is it just the amount of swimmers across the entire state getting that much better? Because 2 seconds is a lot of a difference.
Yeah.
When you're only looking at, 2019 and 2018 where it was over a minute and 1 second, kind of what goes into that time difference?
Well, they want to try to keep it so it's 32. So if you establish that automatic queue time of a little bit slower, then you're going to have possibly more than 32. So they want to try to get it where that automatic time is challenging enough where they're not going to end up with 45 swims or whatever.
As here we take a look on your screen what the lane dividers look like. This is on the left side of our competition pool right now. That's where the swimmers can kind of go warm up and cool down. And at all the practices I've been to throughout the year, that's exactly what each pool looks like. One of the guidelines that the union put in place to, again, what we're all trying to do here is limit the spread, try and stop the spread of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, which has wreaked havoc in our nation, certainly in our state as well. I think all the athletes would be easy to say that they are grateful to have the opportunity to participate. We're grateful to be able to broadcast their competition, and the ability to participate and the ability to compete in sports does not happen without the collaboration of schools, of athletic directors, and of coaches, of finding ways like that. Just do something, anything you can, that won't necessarily hinder their abilities and capabilities to practice and compete, but just to try and make everybody a little bit safer at the same time.
I've been extremely impressed with some of the ingenuity across the state, not only in swimming, but in all the other sports that we've been able to have between baseball, softball, football, cross country. Everybody's done a great job of protecting these athletes, and so they can get to compete, because losing a it's not like you can redshirt in high school. You got 4 years, and once those 4 years are up, you're out. So it's nice that we're giving all of these athletes the ability to compete and safely compete.
Caitlin Sellen from Jeff in lane 3, battling with Lily Hars in lane 4 from Linmar. Also up top, Lily Geelan, the senior from Linmar. So 2 Lilies. Geelan spells it with 2 L's.
So one of the most important things of the 100 fly is breathing control. So, you have a tendency to, get that excited and get that adrenaline on that first 25. But you have to remember to breathe, because if you don't breathe on that first 25, this last 25 is going to hurt much more if you're not taking a couple of breaths on that first 25.
Well, and how about Geelan here overtaking her teammate Hars, and it looks like Geelan will come home for the win in heat number 2, 1:02.58.
It's a nice swim for Lily, down 2 from her seed time.
And we got to specify which Lily there.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Geelan, yeah. I didn't even catch
Not
that.
Lily,
Lily with 2 L's.
Didn't have a good swim as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, she finished in second, a 1:04.14 for Lily Hars. And then Caitlin Sellen from Jeff, 1:05.41. As we get ready for our final heat, heat 3. And again, in lane 4, this is the first time we have seen the junior from Iowa City West, Scarlett Martin, in an individual heat. And you'll be able to
tell quickly.
Almost definitely see her get out to a lead early and keep that lead throughout the end, as her seed time is 2.5 seconds ahead of the next best, which is Heidi Stalkfleet, which is next to her in lane 5, representing City High. And then, again, our winner from the 50-yard freestyle, and Ella Hostetler, also in the running here in the 100-yard butterfly. And again, it's tough when you go back-to-back events. Certainly in an event like a 50 free where you sprint, takes a lot out of you, and then you get right back in for the 100-yard butterfly. And that really is a big purpose for that 20-minute break we had in the interim.
Yeah, and to that effect, as you mentioned, we haven't seen Scarlett Martin yet, and this is event 6, and there's only 12 events. So she's got 4 of the next basically 6-7 events that she has to swim. And so that can take a toll on you for sure.
Martin in first after the first 25. Again, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Scarlett Martin, a junior, recently committed, want to say maybe about 3 to 4 weeks ago, to the University of Florida, a big SEC powerhouse down in Gainesville. The Martin family, just a fantastic family out of Iowa City, certainly athletically, certainly in the pool. You have Ruby Martin, Scarlett's older sister, set tons of records, went on to swim the state of Arizona. Oliver Martin, who's now a football player at the University of Nebraska, has kind of bounced around the Big Ten, but you see a couple O. Martins right there on the boys' record side in this pool, as Scarlett Martin wins it 54-11. Final time. Nearly sheds off a second of her already fabulous time of a 54.99, easily qualifying for state. As I take a look here at the 100-yard butterfly, she does not quite get to her own state record, which, again, also can't be broken here. If you want to get a state record, you have to do that at state, which she did last year, 53.41. So she still, again, can get 6 to 7 tenths better, which is it's just phenomenal. There's really not a whole lot more you can say when Martin and her teammate Aurora Rogue here jump into the pool.
And she did set a pool standard. She did beat Kelsey Drake's pool record here. 54.48 was Kelsey's pool record in the 100 fly, and Scarlett was able to beat that by a couple tenths of a second. And for those that follow swimming, Kelsey was a terrific swimmer. She's now swimming D1. So
Heidi Stalkfleet finished second at 58.33, so she drops about 7 tenths of a second. And then in lane 3 comes in third. That's Hostetler, came in with a 59.06. She drops sometime a 58.81, which will also qualify her for the state meet next week. Good meet so far for Iowa City West, as we'll get you some updated team scores here in a little bit. Certainly a good meet for Ella Hostetler, who has now qualified herself for 2 state events, individual events at next week's meet in Marshalltown. Don't go away. We've got the 100-yard free coming up next after the break. You're watching live high school swimming right here on KCRG 9.2. Welcome back as we just completed event number 6, the 100-yard butterfly. Scarlett Martin dominating a 54:11 final time. That is a new pool record. Heidi Stalkfleet from City High, the junior, also qualifying for state, a 58:33, as well as Ella Hostetler from Iowa City West. 3 juniors are the qualifiers for the 100-yard butterfly. Hostetler with a 58:81, just sneaking under that automatic qualifying seed time. In 4th place there, Ella Wagner, the senior from Linmar, a 101.14. The seed time 59.69, so not too much off the pace again for Wagner. You just wait and see. And also under 102, Karen Liu from Iowa City West, a freshman, will also be in the wait and see category in terms of qualifying for state.
Yeah, and again, a reminder on that, last year's 30-second time was 101.35. So Wagner is under that. Karen Liu is close to that. So waiting game for the 2 of them. They're right, basically split in the middle of those 2 that time. So it just really depends on the year, right? You know, there might be a year where one event is a lot faster than the other. I have to think that of the events we've seen so far, at least based off of this regional, the 200 IM is going to be quick, because we had 7 athletes here at this regional that were under that time that qualified last year. So, but again, it just could be this is a faster regional for the 200 IM as well. They try to split that up. The state does a pretty good job of splitting these regionals up, both by geography and by team size and looking at some of the times and trying to split up some of the powerhouses into different regionals. And they had more spots this year because there were 7 instead of the 6 that we normally have.
And again, we try and do our best here, giving the accurate context of who's an automatic qualifier, who's wait and see. And it really just depends event by event. We saw, as you just mentioned, a lot of fast times in the 200 IM. The 100 butterfly, which we just saw, we mentioned Wagner and Karen Liu from Iowa City West are kind of in the wait and see mark. Again, 32 swimmers will get to qualify for state. When you look at the top 21, and that's as far down as I can go, at least on the statistics available, the top 21 swimmers in the state were still all under 59.7. Again, we don't know what swimmers might be doing at these other regional sites, but certainly just based on that fact alone, under a minute looks pretty good. Under 101 also looks okay. That 101, 102 range is really when you're going to be splitting hairs between tenths of seconds on who goes to Marshalltown and who stays at home.
So for those that are nervous, the first year I coached high school, we had a 400 free relay who was, I want to say it was 5 or 6 seconds off of what the previous year's time was. And we waited and we waited and we waited. And we ended up finding out that 2 teams actually that were faster than us disqualified, and we made it in as 24th. So we didn't think we had any chance to make the state meet in that 400 free relay because we were so far off what the time was the previous year. But it worked out that there was 2 teams ahead of us that were faster that disqualified, and we ended up getting in. So there's reasons to be optimistic. You just really never know.
Yeah, and you won't really know any kind of disqualifications until obviously all the scores are reported. And knock on every single wood that's ever been here at the Linmar Aquatic Center that we haven't had a disqualification yet, and hopefully we hope that trend continues. After Scarlett Martin won the 100-yard butterfly, Iowa City West extends their team lead to 260 points over Linmar's 226. Lions sitting in second place. Cedar Rapids Wash and Iowa City High following in third and fourth, respectively. Wash with 147, City High with 126, as we are now underway in our first of 4 heats in the 100-yard freestyle. Iowa City West's Layla Butler-Mills in lane 4 comes in with the best seed time of this heat. Bree Lemberg in Tipton in lane 3, and Annika Twelt Ball from Cedar Rapids Wash in lane 5 currently is our leader.
So automatic qualifying time in the 100 free this year is 54:39. We have one athlete that is under that. Olivia Tager, the junior from Iowa City West, has gone a 54:19. So she is in the state meet as long as she does not disqualify this 100 freestyle. And then we have a couple of athletes that are close. Lauren Williams, we saw her in the 200 free. And Lucy Hars, we saw her sister in the 100 fly. They are at 54:63 and 55:41 respectively, so they're both close to that automatic time. The last year's qualifying time was 55:55. For those, I can't drive 55. What is that, Van Halen? For you Van Halen fans. And then in 2018, the 30-second time was 55:97. So 55:5, you're probably, want to hit 55:5 or faster to have a shot here.
Some fantastic times here in heat number 1. 12 ball at 105.60. It's about 7 seconds, quick math, improving on her seed time, as with Butler Mills, who finished a 106.72, nearly over 5 seconds off her seed time as well. So got to be happy there for the two. Bree Lemberg in fourth there, 114.85. In third was Keokuk's Kyla Mustin. Came in with a 115.28. She also improves her seed time, finishing a 113.32. And then in lane 6, Claire Wills, also a nice race, finishing in fifth, 115.66.
And that's what you're looking for in everything, is you're looking for time drops. And with some of these athletes in the first heat of some of these events, the likelihood that they're going to get to that time of automatic qualifying time or into those 32 spots is very low. But, you want, like we said earlier, you want to build off of that momentum. And even if you're dropping 100th of a second and getting your goal time or getting your personal best time, that's what coaches are really looking for here, is they're looking for those drops so they can build off of that for next season. You had 2 freshmen in that heat, and it's a great experience.
Heat 2 of 4 is riddled with sophomores. 4 of the 6 swimmers here are second years, including in lane 5, Eleanor Morrissey. The lone seniors in lane 4, Katie Rotter from Williamsburg. And out in front, near the first 25, is in lane 6. That's Maddie Childers from Jeff.
And similar to the 50 free here, you want to look at start and turns on the 100 free, especially hitting those 3 turns that you have, those 2 turns that you have. 3 turns. Math was never mine. I was told there would be no math.
Again, similar, to the 200, the 100 free is just right in the middle of that sprint while also pacing, because a full-out sprint for 100 yards, a full-out sprint for 75 yards is hard, and very often you see that last 25 just a lot of fatigue, just dying down and slowing down. But here looking good in lane 6 is Maddie Childers. Up in lane 3, her top competitor, Amelia Lang-Fallon from City High. But it looked like Childers will touch the pad first, a 101.20. Wow, improving another seed time drastically by over 4 seconds as Maddie Childers. Lang-Fallon comes in second, 102.48. Also a nice improvement for her. In third place, Ella Morrissey.
Yeah, it looks like everybody across the board there dropped time. And we had mentioned in the 100 fly breathing control. The 100 free is important for that as well. Again, the adrenaline when you dive in is, I got to go. But you got to be smart about it, and you got to take a couple of breaths the first 30, 35 yards, because if you don't, you're going to be breathing every stroke in that last 25. And, every time you lift, you turn that head to breathe, you're slowing down. It's just that I was also never good at physics, but it's physics. If you're moving your head, you're going to go slower.
Try me there, yeah.
So, if you can avoid taking some of those breaths in that last 25 where the person next to you might be breathing every stroke, you can make up some ground there. So in this heat 3, Celine Brizard from Linmar, she is 0009. And as many of you swimmers out there can attest, it's breaking the elusive 1 minute mark for the 100 freestyle. So hopefully we see her break a minute. And a couple of these other girls are close as well.
Yeah, Katie Carrico, the senior from Williamsburg. 1:19 she sits at. Looks like a good start from Brizard, who's out in front as they come out of the water into the first 25.
So one of the things you want to watch here too when the athletes breathe is where their kick is. So there's a tendency when you breathe to stop that kick, and when you stop that kick, it's almost like you're stopping and starting a car engine every time you come to a stoplight. Not real good for your gas mileage, not real good for your engine. Same kind of thing here with swimming is when you stop that kick when you take a breath, if you're stopping that 6-beat kick, you got to restart, stop, restart, and you really want to make sure you try to avoid doing that.
Leader after the first 50, actually way out in lane 2 rather. Cedar Rapids Wash's Lucy Fab against Eileen Brizard, neck and neck with her, but Fab still looks like she has a very slight advantage as we go into the final 10 yards. Looks like Brizard's gaining. This will be neck and neck between lane 2 and lane 4. Who touches first? Lucy Fab. A 57.67, Eileen Brizard a 57.79. Also under a minute, Katie Carrico, 59.68. Some fantastic swims there.
Great swims, and like we said, that minute mark, we got 3 under there. And Lucy coming out of lane 2, dropping almost 5 seconds in the 100 free. That's terrific.
Lucy Fab from Cedar Rapids Wash. The junior, also Brizard and Carrico are the ones under a minute as we go to the fourth and final heat now, where we have Olivia Tager and Lauren Williams will be battling for the crown in this one. Tager comes in a 54.19, Lauren Williams a 54.63.
And that's going back to heat 3. It's a great swim for Katie Carrico because this is probably her last swim in 100 freestyle in high school. She's a senior. It's probably not going to get in at 59, but breaking that minute and getting under 59 in your last 100 freestyle is really
success.
Something. That's
big
great.
Success, big accomplishment. Like you said, that 1 minute mark is such a big accomplishment, and to get it in your senior year, very impressive. Right?
Terrific.
Again, we also have Lucy Hars from Linmar, the freshman. She's in lane 3, just about a second off the pace from Tager and Williams. Also, Michaela Hayek from Iowa City West in lane 6. Let's see who gets the best start off the blocks. Right there looked pretty good. Looked like actually Hayek in lane 6 had the best start of the bunch. Fairly even after the first 25.
Traeger got into the wall good there. So did Hayek, though.
So Tager has a slight lead here into the first 50. Tager family, a very nice family. Father Vincent, a nice doctor, my doctor. So
there you go. Look at that.
Shout out to Dr. Tager.
Dr. Tager.
I'm feeling just fine, by the way. Into the 75-yard mark, it's again Tager with the lead. Her split time in the first 50, actually, they just took it off. I'm also unable to report that to you, and it looks like Tager coming in nicely. Here. Lauren Williams closing in on lane 5 late, but Tager still has maybe half an arm length to go. 53.59. The win goes to Olivia Tager. Lauren Williams in second, 53.88. Those are both under the state qualifying times. Let's see in third place, Lucy Hars, 54.55. That is just off the mark, about 0.16 of a second off the state qualifying time. So Lucy Hars in the wait and see category, but Olivia Tager and Lauren Williams will head to Marshalltown next week.
And Hayek in 6, she was also just off that automatic qualifying time, 54.66. Again, 54.39 was automatic. And her start was really part of the reason that she went that time.
And still dropping 1.2 seconds off of her seed time, a 55.86, and Hayek going with a 54.66. There you saw the start from Hayek. Kind of low in her entry, but still the fastest off the block, which is equally as important.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed there with a couple of the girls is breathing out of the flip turn. And so that's something you want to try to avoid doing. And again, it's hard because the 100 free is such a sprint event. You're going to see more of that in the 500 free here, trying to avoid that breathing out of that turn. But you're losing all that momentum off the wall when you take that first breath off the wall. So the streamline is the fastest thing you can do in swimming. So you don't want to lose that momentum you have off of your streamline by taking that breath in the first stroke.
As we will wait to give you updated scores, team scores, after we had another Iowa City West victory there in event number 7 of the night, as now we are going through the awards from the previous event, the 100-yard butterfly, which again we saw Scarlett Martin take that crown with a 54-11, a new pool record. And again, we will see the other of that fantastic dynamic duo from Iowa City West here in this upcoming event, the 500-yard freestyle. Aurora Roquehair will be in the third and final seat. Roquehair currently with the third best time ever in the state. She actually did that way back in 2018, a 4:50.87. Comes in with a seed time today, about 5 seconds off that mark, but still looking to make it back to state.
And she's looking to reestablish a pool record. She holds the pool record in 4:55.21, which she must have done earlier this season because that is also her seed time this year. So I'm assuming they had a meet here at Linn-Mar that she broke that pool record in.
There you see Scarlett Martin, 54-11. Fantastic time to win the 100-yard butterfly. Got the 500 free coming up.
So the automatic qualifying time here for the 500 free is 5:17.63. We actually have 4 athletes that are under that. Jade Roquehair, Aurora Roquehair, Heidi Stockfleet, and Colby Reese, all from Iowa City, 3 from West, 1 from City High. Heidi Stockfleet is from City High. They are all under the automatic qualifying time of 5:17.63. And then last year's time was 5:27.44 for 32nd, and 2018 was 5:32. You're going to see a little bit of a larger range when you have a 500 freestyle. 500 freestyle is 20 laps. So things that you're going to want to look for here, flip turns. You can make up a lot of ground on your competition with better flip turns. The start here is not as important as it would be in maybe the 50 free we saw earlier, the 100 free. And then, just making sure that you're setting a pace and keeping that pace. It's all about pace here, and it's all about consistency, trying to find that sweet spot and just holding whatever pace that you want to establish.
Well, 500 free coming up next, but it looks like we've got a little warm-up coming next. And after the break, we'll talk about what does a person need mentally to sign themselves up at a 500 free. We'll get into that in just a little bit. You're watching live high school swimming on KCRG 9.2. So after Olivia Tager wins the 100-yard freestyle, again, it's Iowa City West continuing to extend that team lead. 319 points for the Trojans. Hometown Linn-Mar sitting in second. The only other school above 200 points. They have 265. Cedar Rapids Wash with 162. Iowa City High 137. Still plenty of times for a lot of those schools to try and inch back a little closer to that lead with more than a handful of events remaining. And the next one is the 500-yard freestyle, and we still have some swimmers warming up on the pool before we start that. I'm KCRG's Mike O'Brien alongside Jake Gantenbean. And Jake, we mentioned it right before the break. The 500-yard freestyle, as a coach, is this something you see swimmers sign up for, or is this a form of punishment?
Well, kind of depends on, like you had mentioned, the mentality of the athlete. I've had athletes who have absolutely loved this event, and then athletes, it's kind of pulling teeth to get them to want to do it. And sometimes, you can take an athlete out of their comfort zone, put them into a 500 at a dual meet some random Tuesday, and they find that they're really good at this event and they really enjoy it. It does take a special kind of athlete to
Anytime that you have to have a teammate count your laps for you, I'm out. I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
No, sir.
And they're the unsung heroes of this event, right? The ones that are counting for you because you're putting a lot of trust. I've been around a lot of pool decks and a lot of swim meets, and you're putting a lot of trust in that person to not screw up your count. And yes, you would be surprised at how many people it is a little bit challenging to count to 20 at times. But I've had everybody approaches this a little bit differently. There are athletes that I've had that have said, I sing a song in my head during it to make it go faster. And, there's all sorts of different focuses that you can have with this to get yourself through it. But yeah, they're just like in running or any other kind of distance event. It's impressive to watch these guys do their thing.
And here, very briefly, if we can get any of our cameras on the teammates keeping track of the laps on the left side of the pool, I believe this is actually the first time I've seen this personally. I believe this is another one of those changes for the coronavirus era where normally they kind of just, those counters have little handles and you kind of shake it into the water. Now they're attached to poles, and I'm not sure, I'll have to learn more on it if the teams are bringing those themselves so they're not interchanging the poles or whatnot, but that's the first time I've ever seen them on poles like that, which I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume that that's just another one of these weird times here in the COVID-19 era.
Yeah, and it's nice they can maybe avoid the splash that they used to get when they had to kneel down and bend over and
don't
get
accidentally
in there.
drop it in there.
Yeah.
Although now you have to trust the
Yep.
ingenuity of the device down there. But we are getting ready to start our first of 3 heats of the 500-yard freestyle. In lane number 3, Mia Utzinger from Cedar Rapids Wash, Isabel Polfleet from City High in lane 4, Abby Thronston from Wash in lane 5, and Shaylin Brown, the junior from Iowa City High. All seed times right in the range of 6.5 minutes to 7 minutes. The state qualifying time for the 500-yard freestyle, 5:17.63. And by the time we get to our third heat, let's see, we have 4 already coming in. 4 of the 6 swimmers already with seed times lower than that. So ideally, if they all swim what they're used to swimming, we should have 4 state qualifiers come out of this 500-yard freestyle.
Yeah, and all 6 in that final heat are right in the range of qualifying in that top 32. Last year was, again, 5:27.44, and the slowest athlete in that heat 3 is Lily Geelan, and she's at 5:30.09. So they all have a really good chance. You know, this will be the event more than any other event today where you will see a wide range of time drops. You know, you might have one athlete who drops a second or two, but you might see, especially some of these athletes in heat 1 and heat 2, you might see 15, 20-second time drops on these 500s. So it's exciting, and it's exciting for these athletes to be able to see that kind of success.
Way out in front is Polfleet from City High.
And Polfleet has a 16-second lead in regards to seed times here. Next is Abby Thornton at 6:46, and Isabella Poltleaf came in at 6:30. So it's holding true to par, at least at this point. And again, what you're looking for here is you're looking for consistency in your splits. So, for example, Thornton just split 39.99 there in lane 5. You want to try to see that. Every coach on deck right now has a pacing 50 in mind, and you might be able to see some of them there on deck. They're going to give a signal to their athletes in the water when they breathe that's either going to be pick it up or steady. When I was coaching, my steady was a closed fist, and my pick it up was basically an open hand where I was raising up my right hand. But you can also signal that. You can see the counters down there on the bulkhead. When they shake, then that
might be more easily visible for the athletes under the water.
When they shake, that means they're getting a signal from their coaching staff that says, hey, pick it up. And you can see that in lane 6 you saw a shake, and in lane 3 you just saw a hold. And so in 3...
If we can keep this shot when they come back around the other way, just to kind of to get a little bit of what you're talking about here.
And some counters will just shake everyone, and that's fine. But you're going to see it more in probably heat 3, where there's going to be either a shake or a hold, and that's going to signal to the swimmer that pick it up or hold steady what you're doing. Because the last thing you want to do is have an athlete that's holding consistently what you want, and then having the counter send the wrong signal of shake, and then now you've got an inconsistency where you went from 40 and holding 40 to 38 on that, say, 7th 50, and then the 8th and 9th 50 are 41 because you went from that 40 to 38 and then back up.
Well, it's always a lot harder to speed back up, especially after that first 250 or after that first 300 than it is to slow down your pace.
Yeah, so our leader here, she was 39.10 on that last 50, so we'll see what she's going to have here on her next 50 and see where the consistency at. We're looking at Isabella Polfleet here in lane 4 from Iowa City High. So 39.10 was her split on her previous 50, and we would want to see something consistent with that. And there she was 39.4. So there's a range. I mean, there's no expectations that any of these swimmers are going to go 39.10, 39.10, 39.10 the entire time. But usually there's a range between 39.2, 39.4, maybe somewhere for Isabel here for her coach to hold. Coach Zane Hugo there for Iowa City High.
How does the training differ as well? For a sprinter and a distance, obviously when you're, interval training sprinters, you're really looking for consistent, 50s under 30 or 32 seconds or something. How do a distance swimmer, you just say, go long forever and I'll tell you when to finish?
Yeah. So it's all pace. It's getting that, getting your body trained to be able to pace. So we would do a lot of pace work where we would do 20/50s on, say, a minute or a minute 5 and hold pace. So we would say it's on a minute, but we want you to hold 38 or 39. And then you'd have that 20 seconds rest. But just training your body to be able to pace that versus those quick, fast twitch muscles getting in there up for a sprint for a 50 freestyle. So a lot of pace work, whether it be repeat 50s or repeat 100s. That's what you're looking for there. But again, going back to the pace work, so just looking at Isabel's last two 50s, she was 39.11 the previous 50 and then 39.10 on that one. So she's doing very well if that's what they have in their mind between 39 and 39.2 or 39.3. And then obviously this last 50, you should see a little bit faster. You should see 38 or 37 high because it is the last 50, and it's like, okay, whatever you have left. They show the orange squares or the red squares down on your...
It's also hard to miss that horn, too.
Yeah.
So Isabel Polfleet will come in and touch the pad first, 6:17.17. Again, she was already 16 seconds ahead of the group in terms of seed times, and she drops about 13 seconds. But how about Abby Thronston as well, dropping loads of time? She came in a 6:46, and she winds up with a 6:21. Again, you talked about that kind of variety of time drops we're going to see here in this event. 25 seconds. A drop for Abby Thronston.
Yeah, and Mia Utzinger there in lane 3, she came in at 6:49, and she swam 6:33 there, so that's 16 seconds. And then our last finisher there is Shaylin. She was seated 7:06. She went 6:54. So the min time you see there as a drop was 12 seconds. So it's a great swim all the way around there.
Now, we've seen loads and loads of time drops, whether it be pool records, personal records here this afternoon, and we hope that theme continues throughout the rest of the afternoon and certainly next week at State for our local athletes as well. And I think one of the factors that has to be talked about, at least briefly, and this is what I want to ask you about how much it has a difference. There are good pools and bad pools. There are fast pools and slow pools, certainly here at the Linn-Mar Aquatic Center. Just looking at it, you can tell that this is the cream of the crop that this state, certainly at the high school level, has. Why is this such a fast pool? What goes into it being a fast pool? Obviously, time drops. There's a lot of factors, like we talked about tapers earlier on, just adrenaline of possibly being your last meet of the season, last meet of your career. You want to do your best. It also is a little bit of the science that goes into a pool as well.
Yeah, so you want to look at depth is one of the things you want to look at, depth of the pool. You also want to look at gutters. So where is the exit points of where the water is going, and what kind of water flow that you essentially have throughout the 8 lanes, and the spacing too. You see a little bit of space here in 8 between the lane rope and the wall. The more spacing you have there, the better off you're going to be in regards to fast. And yeah, Linn-Mar, for sure, this aquatic facility is one of the faster ones in the state.
And we are now underway in heat 2 of 3 of the 500-yard free. Linn-Mar's Lily Weber comes in a good 26 seconds faster than the rest of the field, comes in with a 5:36.70. That seed is about 20 seconds off the automatic state qualifying time. So we'll see if Lily Weber can drop some time, and if so, how much?
So we had mentioned earlier about seed times and getting into a fast heat, and this is one of those instances where Lily is a little bit hindered by that because she is, and it's not showing out at least so far, but she's 26 seconds faster than the next closest swimmer. And so at that point in a 500, again, it's not bearing fruit yet, but you're going to have to push yourself if you find yourself in that situation.
There's no one next to you in those lanes to say, hey, am I close to this pace that I want to be at? Kind of knowing what their times might be like. Yeah, it's I think you hit it right on, that self-motivation. But as we talked about before the event started, you need a lot of self-motivation to enter this event in the first place, let alone how you do it successfully.
And Lily's mom was a Division I swimmer. She's also a club coach here in the area.
Holding a pace right around 33 seconds, but Sophie Lenzer from Cedar Rapids Wash not going away on the left side of Weber.
And she almost wants that, right? I mean, Lily almost wants Sophie to be with her to push her, because if she has somebody like that next to her, I mean, obviously she doesn't want to lose to her, but if she has somebody close, that's going to help her throughout the race. And you can already see Lily kind of extending that lead out. So, again, Lily was 33.0 in that third 50, and then she was 33.32 there in that fourth 50. So, again, based off of what she's held so far, we're looking at trying to establish a pace of somewhere around 33, 33.3, 33.5.
Right about halfway through heat 2 of 3 of the 500-yard freestyle, and with about 2.5 minutes remaining in this heat, I believe that's a good time to take a very, very brief word from one of our sponsors.
For years, Cedar Rapids Toyota has been the easiest, best, and most trusted place to buy your new Toyota. Now, we'd like to introduce Cedar Rapids Toyota as the easiest and best place to sell your car. That's right, we want to buy your car. We'll appraise your car in minutes and pay you current market value or even more. Leave with a check today. No appointment necessary. Appraisers are available during normal dealership hours. You won't find a simpler, safer way to sell your car. Sell your car today at Cedar Rapids Toyota, your trusted brand from a trusted dealer.
Welcome back. We want to thank every single one of you for tuning in with us here on a Saturday afternoon. Understand we were up against the Iowa Hawkeye football team, but by the looks of it, I believe you probably could have turned that game off an hour or two ago and not really missed anything. Hawkeyes out to a big lead over Michigan State as that nears the end, so hopefully you stick with us through the end of the high school regional championship here from Linn-Mar Aquatic Center, and 7 teams competing.
That's what radios are for, Mike. You know,
exactly.
Put Dolph on the radio, guys. Listen to our Hawks and watch Mike and I here and watch some swimming.
Eight teams, excuse me, my correction. We have Iowa City West out in front as a team, followed by Linn-Mar, Cedar Rapids Wash, Iowa City High, Cedar Rapids Jeff, Tipton, Williamsburg, and Keokuk to round out the final 8. As this high school swimming and diving season, the close is right around the corner with the Marshalltown YMCA State Championship meet set for just about a week from right this moment. I believe 3 o'clock is the start time for the finals on swimming. Divers will start at noon. However, there are preliminary rounds on Thursday out in Marshalltown.
And again, no spectators there at Marshalltown either, and that is going to be a very significant change from previous years. That place can get very loud.
Well, and there in Marshalltown, I'm expecting a lot of anybody watching has experienced that, but you have spectators on both sides of the pool. It's kind of a low-ceilinged venue where that sound just bounces off every wall. Really not a whole lot of space at all. From the blocks to the wall, and even from the finish to the wall. There is no 4-lane warm-up pool on the side of that pool like there is here. Like you said, it gets loud. It's an awesome environment. Unfortunately, the environment will change a little bit this year, but certainly any state championship or second or third or fourth place finish, or really any finish at the state championship should be well appreciated by by the athletes, as it is a fantastic accomplishment for all of them. As the finisher for Heat 2,
Lily Weber
has
there.
finished, Lily Weber, and then Sophie Lenzer following. We apologize if there was a little brief pause in the race there in the middle. However, we did grab the end. Weber 5:30.86, dropping about 6 seconds. Lenzer came in a 6:02, finished with a 5:48. She also dropped some time. Third place, Catherine Hennies. Fourth, Kaylee Clark. And fifth, Emma Williams, as now we are waiting Lily Fairchild from Williamsburg to close out Heat 2.
So Lily is right in there between the last 2 years at 32nd. Again, 5:27.44 was last year, but 5:32 was the previous year. So Lily's right there in the middle of that 32nd time between 2019 and 2018. So again, just depends on where the chips fall here in regards to the other 7 or the other 6 regionals. So, but you're giving yourself a chance if you're going around that time.
And as we are now ready to start Heat 3, and one of the swimmers we've mentioned so many times throughout this afternoon, Aurora Roquer, set to jump back into the pool. She is the 500-yard free defending state champion. Looking to go back-to-back, but in order to do that, she'll have to finish the race legally here this afternoon to be able to solidify her spot at next week's state championship. Roquer comes in with a 4:55.21, easily pacing the rest of the state. As I pull up the statistics real quick, Jessie Wingham, the only other swimmer under 5 minutes so far this year. She's a sophomore out of Waukee. And then in third place, who we're also going to see here, right in lane 5, Heidi Stalkfleet, another one to watch out for. Stalkfleet has the advantage off the start, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how, there are plenty of different approaches to this. Taking it out a little bit quicker, going a little bit easier on that first 200 and then attacking the middle 200. There's a lot of different approaches you can take here. And, for Heidi and Aurora specifically, this is almost like a prelim for next week. They both have qualified. They're both more than likely going to be in the top 8. So it's a matter of getting into a rhythm, seeing where you're at, and kind of gauging off of each other, because they're going to be, like you just said, they're going to be in competition for a state title next week. So it's almost like, do you want to show the playbook, or do you want to give it a little vanilla, not do any trick plays, knowing that you have next week?
Both into it already. Certainly, Roquer and Stalkfleet pacing with each other right now. The flip turn, Roquer with about 3/10 of a second advantage, each holding an exact same pace on that last 50, 29:13.
It is just, you have to be cerebral in this event. Your coaches can pace you and your counter can pace you, but ultimately it's one of those things where it has to be instinctual and where I'm at and how I'm feeling. And one of the best I ever saw at this was Ben Collin, swam at Dubuque Senior and then swam at the University of Iowa. He was just so cerebral in every one of his 50s and where he was at, and he knew exactly where he was and exactly what he wanted to do. And it's important that you don't get ahead of yourself and have somebody else swim this race for you. You have to stay in your head and, for lack of a better term, stay in your lane and not let somebody else dictate how you're going to swim the event. Because there's going to be somebody that's going to go faster out than you expect to maybe do or plan to do. And then you have to stick with that plan and say, listen, this is where I'm at. This is where I need to stay at. And I can catch them on the back half, which is where I'm focused on.
About halfway through, it's Roquer just inching a tad bit more of a lead over Heidi Stalkfleet. But again, West High really going for team points, not just today, but certainly next week. And in third and fourth place are also West High Trojans. In lane 3, Jade Roquer, Aurora's younger sister. And in lane 6, Colby Reese, who just finished her flip turn. Roquer with a split of 31-23, that's Jade I'm talking about, and Colby Reese with a 32-4. Lily Geelan currently in 6 in lane 7. Emily Brenham from Linmar in lane 2.
I think it would be a blast to swim with your older sister, but there's got to be a tiny little bit of Jade that goes, I'm going to be glad to see you go so I don't have to race you in the same race.
And again, this is another one of those races where you look out, based on seed times, Rogaire and Reese should be safe to get a state qualifying time. Reese is the closest. She came in with a 5:12.27. The seed time is 5:17, so she has it by about 5 seconds as long as she finishes today. But again, in terms of finding that top 32, you're throwing Watt out again because Scarlett Martin has the 4th best time in the state, but she's not swimming this today or next week. So it's just that one more open spot that opens up for one swimmer that might be in that 25 to 35 range that's looking for that extra qualifying spot.
Yeah, and again for Aurora and Heidi, this is a warm up almost. They're going to be in that top 8. But for Jade and for Colby, this is a seed situation. So do you want to be in that top 8? Do you want to be in that fast heat? And that's where they're going to have to attack this and try to work their way into that top 8. And Jade's really attacking this last 150, 200 yards here.
Again, see the horn sound. Aurora Rogaire with about half a pool length distance of lead over Heidi Stalkfleet.
I don't think Jade's going to have enough time here, but if she had an extra
gaining.
maybe 50 yards, she might catch Heidi here. She's really closing. She's 7/10 faster on that last split.
Maybe about 2 full body lengths behind, 2.5 as Aurora Rogaire is coming in to the last 10 yards. Clock is at 4:50. Rogaire came in with a 4:55. Looks like she'll beat that. Yes, a 4:54.35. Stalkfleet coming in for a 2nd place. Jade Rogaire out in lane 3 will finish in 3rd. The 500 free. I'm just looking. That looks like it will break another pool record, her own pool record for Aurora Rogaire. Also breaks a conference record, which she already had. So Rogaire continuing her very successful meet with a new pool record, a state qualifying time. Jade Rogaire finished in 3rd, a 5:10. That will qualify. She already was as well. Colby Reese, now this is important. She finished in 4th, a 5:20.74. Not a state qualifying here today, but because she swam earlier in the regular season, a 5:12.27, because she finished the race without any problems that at least are apparent to us at the moment. Reese still will qualify for state despite dropping some time. And in 5th place, rounding out, Emily Brenham, a 5:26.04, and Lily Geelan, a 5:28.59 for 6th place.
So both Brenham and Geelan are right in that range. Brenham was about a second lower than what we were at last year for 32nd, and Geelan is about a second above where we were. So they're both going to be right there on that cut line on 32nd, depending on what we're seeing from the other regionals. Doing the 100 freestyle awards here. Olivia Tager.
Again, we have had now Again, as much as I don't want to do math, I'm going to try it just to give you guys the best kind of context. We've now had four straight events. An Iowa City West Trojan coming out on top. Started with Ella Hostetler in the 50 free, then Scarlett Martin won the 100 fly, then Olivia Tager in the 100 free, and then there in the 500 free, Aurora Rogaire also coming up on top. So Iowa City West will extend their team lead once more as we wait for Olivia Tager to earn her certificate. We can see her walking on the other side of the pool as the regional champion here at Linmar. The 100-yard free, automatic state qualifying time, a 53:59. Also, for your Jefferson fans, you will see Lauren Williams next week at state with a qualifying time of 53:88 as Olivia Tager receives her award.
I like the new, they've done this for a few years now, but and if you can see it on your screens there, they're holding a ticket punched It's like looks like a movie ticket or a ticket to a sporting event, and I think they probably took that from NCAA's the basketball.
Sure, and they've done that for volleyball. For the girls the girls union does a good job with everything they do. Certainly when it comes to showing their appreciation and showing the congratulations and making it seem like the kind of accomplishment that it is. When you make state, you should earn a nice reward, and certainly Olivia Tager has done just that. Our individual events are dwindling down. We've only got 2 more. We've also got 2 more relays. My personal favorite, the 200-yard freestyle relay. That's coming up next after the break. You're watching live high school swimming right here on KCRG 9.2. Welcome back to Linn-Mar Aquatic Center to see some more swimmers taking either a warm-up or a cool-down in the pool right now, as we have a brief pause in the action before we get back to event number 9 coming up. The 200-yard freestyle relay is the event that follows our most previous event, the 500-yard free, which we saw Iowa City West's senior Stanford commit Aurora Roque here setting a new pool record here at Linn-Mar in the 500 free, also shedding off some time off her personal best. I believe it was a 4:54.35 pool record. Heidi Stalkfleet in second in that 500 free, 5:05.27, and Jade Rogier also in automatic state qualifying time, 5:10.01. West High finishing in first and third in that event, which will give them 36 points in just that one event. Also, Colby Reese finished in fourth, which will give them 15 points. So, as it sits right now, Iowa City West with 360 team points. Linn-Mar in second with 304. Not exactly sure how long this break will be. We're expected to continue on in just a not terribly long here, and it'll kick back off with the 200 freestyle relay. And if you like chaos, that's the event for you, because 50 free can be pretty chaotic. How about in a relay format with 4 different girls swimming the 50 free all back to back to back?
So for this, especially for a team like Iowa City West that has aspirations of winning this event next week, it's really imperative that you're fast with your exchanges, but that you're safe with your exchanges, because the last thing you want to do is not be able to swim this next week because of a disqualification. So I'm sure Coach Byron Butler has mentioned that. Safe but fast was always the phrase that we used. You want to be quick, and you don't want to have a slow exchange here, but you don't want to give these officials anything to possibly look at in regards to a too quick of an exchange.
Because the relays are where their eyes are maybe laser focused more so than any other event.
Yep, undoubtedly, for sure. And there's a lot of strategy with this event as well in regards to, we talked about chess pieces and strategery, if you will, on lineups, construction, and some of that stuff. But there is also where you place your athletes in this relay. So generally, you would think you would want your anchor leg, your fourth swimmer, to be your fastest. A lot of coaches now have gone, that's the slowest leg. And the reason why is, we talked about clean water in the medley relay. So if you stack your top 3 swimmers, 1, 2, 3, the idea is twofold. You have clean water for your anchor leg, and you also have a little bit of extra motivation for your anchor leg. Don't get caught. Don't get run down by the anchors of the other teams. So there's definitely relay roster lineup construction here as well. And I actually liked to put my fastest swimmer third. So you would go the fastest third, second fastest first, third fastest second, and then your slowest, quote unquote slowest. And some of these, there's the differences are negligible on some of these relays with slow to fast times. But
well, especially in the 200 free as opposed to the 400 free, where it's only a 50
right.
and not a 100.
And the strategy behind putting your fastest swimmer third is everybody else is putting their slowest swimmer third. Generally, that's historically what you would do in the relay.
Oh yeah, I was third. I know. Yeah. The fastest was always first and fourth. At least when I was going up, I sat in third. I did my role, and we lost.
So it's almost from a psychological standpoint with your first and your fourth swimmer and saying, get us a lead, and your fourth swimmer is don't get caught. So you might be the slowest on our relay, but we're going to give you a lead, so don't get caught. And you'd be surprised at how much motivation that can get with some of these swimmers.
Well, and how about when we just take a look at the lineup, the seed time for Iowa City West, it kind of helps your strategy if you're head coach Byron Butler when all four are just extremely fast. Ella Hostetler is going to lead off their 200 free relay. She obviously won the 50 free, so you're looking at maybe the fastest start of the group, and certainly a top 50 time. Jade Roguehair will be second, and then it's Aurora Roguehair and Scarlett Martin, who are two of the fastest swimmers in the state, no matter what stroke you're swimming. So certainly,
that's a nice
eases
problem
up
to have.
Coach Butler's strategy a little
Right.
when you can just throw the four out there kind of in any role and get some good results. But first we have Heat 1 here in Lane 3, Keokuk, in Lane 4, Tipton, in Lane 5, Williamsburg. Right now, the Tipton Tigers with a nearly a third of a pool lead as we're in Leg 2. This is Avery Callender in the pool for the Tigers, ready to exchange with teammate Ryan Hofler.
So one thing to remind everybody, there is no automatic qualifying time in relays. So similar to or what we're talking about in regards to those individual events in the qualifying time, there is no automatic qualifying time in relays. So just for reference, last year's 32nd time was 1:45.39, and the year before it was 1:46.03. So you want to be under 1:45 to feel comfortable to hear your name called a couple hours from now when they tabulate these results. And Tipton should be right around that.
Tipton's really got a full pool length lead right now with anchor Zoe Stonebreaker, who's also had a pretty good meet individually. She looks to close it out. Time right now is at 1:43. Right around that time you were saying, Jake, 1:45.65 Tipton finishes. Williamsburg looks like they will finish in second, with Keokuk in third in this heat. Williamsburg rounding out right at 2 minutes, just under 1:59.8. Keokuk will finish 2:04.47.
So that 45.65 that Tipton just swam, that would have put him at third going into the meet. So they're in decent shape here, when we're talking about those 32 relays getting in, and we have 7 regionals, so you want to be around that 4 or 5 range. They got a shot here to take a couple teams down in this fast heat. So they did a nice job of establishing that time. So now Wash, who was 1:47.54, and Jeff, who is 1:46.70, and Iowa City High is 1:49.72. All of them are looking at that and going and having that in their mind going, okay, we got to beat 1:45.65. We got to beat everybody on our heat that we can, and we also got to beat that 1:45.65. Because every team that you can knock off and know at your district, at your regional, that you are faster than, it's one less spot you have to worry about when you go to hear your name, a couple hours from now.
Second and final heat of the 200 free relay in Lane 2, Iowa City High. Lane 3, Jefferson. Lane 4, Iowa City West. Lane 5, Linn-Mar. Lane 6, Cedar Rapids Wash. In terms of seed times, Iowa City West with quite a lead, 1:38.74. Next best is Linn-Mar, just about 5 seconds off of that pace. And then after that, Jefferson about 3 seconds off of Linn-Mar's pace. Again, it will be Ella Hostetler, Jade Roguehair, Aurora Roguehair, and Scarlett Martin for Iowa City West. Another chance to see Haley Kimmel here for Linn-Mar, the sophomore. She's the lead off the blocks in Lane 5. Also some very good sprinters in Charlie DeGroot and Lauren Williams for Jeff.
And this is one of those events that you really, really do miss the crowd, because you have so many people that are invested. Because you have, in the pool right now over the next, 4 legs, you've got 24 swimmers. Instead of in an individual event, you have 6 or 7 swimmers. So you have so many families that are interested in these relays.
How about Haley Kimmel taking down today's 50-yard freestyle winner, Ella Hostetler, and Kimmel comes in with a seed time about 2 tenths of a second faster than Hostetler. 24:33 is Jake Roguehair into the water for Iowa City West. Lucy Haars in for Linn-Mar. The Haars sisters will be competing. Lucy is in second. Lily's their anchor. right now Linmar with the lead. Exchange for Ella Wagner.
So this is what we were just talking about. Coach Bobby Kelly at Linmar, he did exactly what we were talking about. He went fastest to slowest, basically. So he had Haley first leading off to get that lead, and then he had Lucy second, who is their second fastest swimmer, and then Lily, and then their anchor leg here. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Ella Wagner, and then Lily last.
Who has now lost that lead thanks to Aurora Rogue here for Iowa City West. Into anchor for West is Scarlett Martin, neck and neck with Lily Hars. Martin into the turn for the final 25, takes a flip turn, and how about that push off the wall? Already now up to a body length lead. Scarlett Martin for Iowa City West bringing it home for the Trojans. Another title for Iowa City West, and they qualify for state, improving their seed time by nearly a second. 1:36.89. Linmar in second place, 1:39.32. Linmar going to be very happy with that, dropping about 3.5 seconds, actually almost 4 seconds off their seed time. In third place, we had Wash, fourth Jefferson, and fifth Iowa City High.
Yeah, so if we go back to Tipton and Heat 1, they were 145.65, so they actually finished fifth in that event. They ended up beating City High out of Heat 2, so that's good for them, right? That's one less team that they're going to have to worry about when it comes to tallying those top 32.
Again, and you saw the strategy there from both coaches, kind of how they work one against each other. You saw Linmar with a lead with Haley Kimmel and Lucy Hars, two of their best sprinters, and then Coach Byron Butler putting his two best sprinters, Aurora Roquehair and Scarlett Martin, near at the end, and you saw how quickly they were able to get into that lead and eventually take over and win.
So that's the fun part of looking at that, right, is Coach Byron Butler put his two fastest at the end, and Coach Bobby Kelly for Linmar put his two fastest at the front. And that's what makes it fun is, you would love to have Haley and Scarlett swimming against each other in the anchor leg, and they're neck and neck, and it would be a great thing. But it's also fun to see.
But we still got to see, Haley and Hostettler, who is our 50 free champion, and that just speaks to the kind of depth that Iowa City has.
Yeah, and
Iowa City West.
And that's gonna be hugely important next week. It's not going to be, if Iowa City West is going to win a state title next week, it's not going to be because of Aurora and Scarlett, because they're going to win their events and they're going to finish in the top 2 or whatever in their events. It's going to be Ella Hostettler. It's going to be Jade Roguehair. It's going to be those ladies. Can they move up from, say, 7th or 8th to 3rd or 4th? Or can they move up from 14th or 15th to top 10? And that's where those tiny little points you're going to pick up here and there, you already have Aurora and Scarlett penciled in for their points.
Yep. So
now as a coach, you're looking at it and you're going, where can we pick up these extra points? We need Jade to move up 3 spots, and we need Ella to move up 2 spots. And that's where you're looking at trying to figure out where's our path to a state title.
And that's where it also hurts them too. They did have a diver that was ranked in the top 15, unfortunately fell sick. That also won't be getting points. As you see Aurora Roguehair kind of scurrying away after she receives her ticket punched from the 500-yard freestyle, which saw her set a new pool record of 4:54.35, the only swimmer under 5 minutes. We've just got 3 events left, the 100 back, the 100 breast, and then we'll cap it off with the always fun 400-yard freestyle. It's coming up next. You're watching live high school swimming on KCRG 9.2. Welcome back inside Lidmar Aquatic Center. A little more of an extended break here in between the 200 free relay and the 100-yard backstroke, as we've got some swimmers still warming up and or cooling down in our main competition pool. Iowa City West holding on to a team lead after that 200-yard free relay. They have now hit the 400-point mark, sitting at 400.0 even. Linmar in second place, a 3:38 score, followed by Wash, who has now eclipsed that 200 mark with 211 points. Iowa City High following in fourth with 186 points. Interesting event coming up next in the 100-yard backstroke. We have 4 events, and headlining that 4th event is Scarlett Martin, who last year did not swim this event at state. Instead, she won the 200-yard individual medley, which today we saw Linn-Mar's Haley Kimmel take that automatic bid with the win, and obviously Martin will not swim that next week. So instead of that event, she comes into the 100-yard back, but don't be fooled because she still comes into it with the top seed time in the entire state with a 56-57. Just good at just about everything.
She's okay, right? I mean, she's okay. She's
just all right. Wonder why Florida wanted her.
Yeah, right.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights from those middle events, which really, we really just saw Iowa City West just absolutely kind of dominate. There's Scarlett Martin with the 100-yard butterfly, taking that on an automatic state qualifying time, 54-11, followed by City High's Heidi Stogfleet. And then this was a really close one, the 100-yard free. Olivia Tager just edging out Jeff's Lauren Williams. Both, however, are still headed to state. That difference there was about 0.29 of a second. The same cannot be said for this 500-yard free as Aurora Rogehair blows away the rest of the field. However, Heidi Stogfleet and Jade Rogehair also, they were the second and third place finishers respectively, also qualifying for state. And this is what we just most previously saw, the 200-yard freestyle relay, where really the first three legs of this relay did not show that much of a lead until Scarlett Martin jumped in and took really you could even say that first 25 of that anchor leg was still neck and neck, and it was the turn from Scarlett Martin that really pushed her ahead of Linn-Mar's anchor Lily Hars. Iowa City West gets the auto bid, but Linn-Mar still with a good time of 1:39.32.
Yeah, they should be comfortably in and probably close to that top 8 when we look next week at the fast heat for the 200 free relay for Marshalltown. So it's been a great day so far. We got 3 events left: 100 back, 100 breaststroke, and the 400 free relay. We'll see Scarlett Martin twice. We'll see her in the 100 backstroke as the top seed. We'll see her. Let's see, where's she at? She's going to anchor
the 400 free, as well as Aurora Rogehair back there in the relays, and we'll see how that differentiates next week. How Coach Butler maybe decides to flip them, because they also made it in the medley relays as well.
Yeah, and then we'll see our 200 IM champ Haley Kimmel. We'll see her in the 100 breaststroke. She's the top seed in that. But she does have some competition there. You remember Rika Yashiri from Iowa City High. She's right there with Haley, 107.71, 107.86. So that should be a really good race in the 100 breaststroke. And then we'll wrap it up with the 400 free relay.
Always fun, always loud. Unfortunately, not today. We'll try and be as loud as possible. Got the 100-yard backstroke coming up first, though. But before that, let's take a quick break. Have a word from one of our sponsors.
For years, Cedar Rapids Toyota has been the easiest, best, and most trusted place to buy your new Toyota. Now, we'd like to introduce Cedar Rapids Toyota as the easiest and best place to sell your car. That's right, we want to buy your car. We'll appraise your car in minutes and pay you current market value or even more. Leave with a check today. No appointment necessary. Appraisers are available during normal dealership hours. You won't find a simpler, safer way to sell your car. Sell your car today at Cedar Rapids Toyota, your trusted brand from a trusted dealer.
We have 4 heats coming up for the 100-yard backstroke. In Heat 1, we will have 3 swimmers. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're sisters, at least 2 of them. Addie Brumble and Malaya Brumble, both from Keokuk. Could be cousins. I don't know. I'm sorry, the Brumble family, if I'm misinterpreting that. Could just be 2 families with the same last name. But either way, they're right next to each other in lane 3 and 4. Lane 5, we have Emily Fry, the sophomore from Cedar Rapids Jefferson. Again, 4 heats in this 100-yard backstroke. State qualifying time sits right just a hair above 1 minute flat. 1 minute, .09, so 9/100ths of a second. Past 1 minute is where you'll get that automatic bid to the state meet next week in Marshalltown. That's the goal everybody's trying to get to in terms of the 4th and final heat. Scarlett Martin and Carly Wilkins, both from Iowa City West, have already gotten that mark. So as long as they finish legally here today, they will already be headed to Marshalltown, and a lot of close calls. Actually, I should take that back. Sydney Jones is also there from Cedar Rapids, Washington, by .07 of a second. Comes in with a seat time of 1 minute .02. It doesn't matter when you did that, though. So, again, add Jones to the list, where as long as she finishes without disqualification, she's also headed to state.
So 32nd was 101.58 in 2019 and 102.05 in 2018. So anything under 101.5, probably in pretty good shape to make that top 32. So in that case, you really still only have the three that are under that 101.5. Vivian Gibson, senior from Iowa City West, she's 102.85. She's the next closest from that to that 101.58. So we also might have another pool record fall today. The pool record in this event is 56.03, set by Katie Broderick last year. And Scarlett Martin is at 56.57. So based off of what Scarlett has already done today, there's a good chance that you might see some more history here at the Linn-Mar Aquatic Center in regards to a pool record being set again today.
And that time, 56.03, fantastic for Broderick. And what did she do at state to follow that up? 54.57, setting a new state record. That was Dowling's Katie Broderick last season.
So that's good company if she ends up breaking the record.
Yeah. Well, and, I don't want to take any attention away from today's regionals with the athletes and teams that are competing today, but assuming Scarlett Martin kind of hangs on to her seat time right around there, all eyes will be on where Cedar Falls is today, and Grace Frericks, also a fantastic backstroker, comes in really neck and neck seed times, just 57.51 the seed time for Cedar Falls' Grace Frericks, who already has a state title under her belt, I believe, from possibly 2018 or 2019.
So two things that you're looking for here in the backstroke. One is obviously you're going to have to finish on your back at the 100 and not roll over. And then the other thing you want to look at in regards to any type of disqualification is on the flip turn. So you're going to watch these ladies, and they're going to go at the flags here, and they're going to take a couple strokes, and then they're going to turn over onto their belly and take a stroke, and then flip. Now, if you turn over too soon, that's when you can get disqualified. So they call that non-continuous. So if any of these ladies flip early, and you'll be able to tell on the broadcast here where they flip early and whether they not. That's what the officials would be looking for as the two things you're looking for in regards to any infractions, finishing on your back, and then also into that flip turn, flipping too soon over onto your stomach.
Well, that's a little bit different, if I'm not mistaken, from what we see in the individual medley, where you're able to kind of hit the wall on your back and then go into the breaststroke, as opposed to coming in off the flags doing a flip turn in that event. So the backstrokers here, it's just, again, one of those techniques you practice for a long time, knowing how many strokes or how many paces it's going to take you past those flags.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you bring that up. In the IM, the rule used to be that you could flip over at the 100-meter mark. You used to be able to flip over onto your belly and do a flip turn and go into breaststroke, and they changed that rule. And
I'm glad you said change that rule, because when I saw it earlier in the IM, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, are they allowed to do that? Because I thought you were supposed to. And then obviously they didn't, and we've gotten no words of any kind of disqualifications up here, so I figured there was some kind of change.
So my club coach and my college coach, Doug Collin, who will be listening to this at some point, he will get a kick out of this, because when I was in college, they changed the rule, and I swam the 200 IM, and the year they changed the rule, I decided to just keep doing the flip turn, even though it was illegal, and I actually did the flip turn at our championship meet, and I think I shocked every official that was working the meet because I didn't get disqualified. They didn't see it, or they thought they didn't see what they actually saw, so I actually got away with doing that, so he'll appreciate that story. It's just funny that you brought that up, because it's always a funny story that we tell in passing.
We are now in Heat 2, the 100-yard backstroke. In lane 4, Abby Thronston from Cedar Rapids Wash comes in with the top seed time of the heat, 1:16.46. And Raya Zavisky from Iowa City High.
Well, you did much better than I would have done on that.
I had help with that one.
Okay.
Freshman from Iowa City High comes in with a 1:18.34.
Again, start's also important here. Getting up, out, and then getting that good underwater off the wall.
Again, it's Zavisky and Thronston, as well as Estelle Schneiderman, in that order, 1, 2, and 3 into the first 50.
and you want to catch water here. So if you're seeing a shallow recovery here, then you're not getting and catching that water and getting that good strong pull through. So if you're seeing kind of that shallow, that's where you're going to want to look and go, okay, you got to get a little bit deeper with that arm. And you see in lane 4,
right out of the turn, neck and neck here.
Looked like she came off a little bit on her stomach.
This is Abby Thronston, who's now overtaken Savitsky, but still very close. It's that final reach from Thronston gets the win, 1:13.43. I saw also what you saw, kind of just coming in off that flip turn. You could still see her, twisting around before she surfaced.
We'll wait for the official word from Bruce. I don't want to speculate on any disqualifications, but it did look like she came off on her stomach and then turned over. And again, you got to stay on your once you touch that wall, you got to stay on your back.
Savitsky in second of the heat, 1:14.25. Looked like majority of the class there improved a lot of times. Third place, Emma Peters, also improving time. Schneiderman in fourth. As we now go to heat number 3. Here's a Kimmel from Linmar.
Do you want to speculate
Kimmel,
on?
I don't know.
Relationships
Linmar's a little bigger of a community than the Keokuk is.
A lot of sophomore, senior though.
She is a senior.
3.
I didn't know Haley had an older sister. If it is, in case it is in fact her sister, because Haley's only a sophomore. But Alyssa Kimmel, the senior from Linmar, and then 2 freshmen right in the middle lanes, Michaela Schmidt and Grace Wiesland, both from Linmar.
This heat's got some Linmar flavor to it. And I don't know if we mentioned this, but each team is allowed 3 individual entries and 1 relay entry. So all 3 Linmar entries are actually in this heat. Each team is allowed 3 individual entries for each individual event and 1 relay event, or 1 relay entry. And that would be the same at the state meet, obviously, because you can only have those 3 swimmers qualify. And one of the things you want to watch for, too, here on your backstroke is not jamming that turn. So you want to make sure that you turn over soon enough that you're not disqualified, but not too late that you're jamming into that turn. Because if you jam into that turn, you're either going to go straight down or straight up, depending on where your feet hit.
A flip turn might look pretty simplistic to the naked eye, but the distance, the power with the legs coming out of that just takes so much time to perfect. And once perfected, can make really the difference, when you get to regional meets and state meets of winning and losing.
And younger swimmers will have a count, so we will actually train the younger swimmers to count their strokes from the flags to the wall, and then that way they're actually counting in their head. Whereas these guys, they probably don't need to count anymore. They probably have a pretty good idea on where they are in the pool.
Michaela Schmidt winning heat 3. Grace Wisnind coming in 4th. Maddie Childers in 2nd. 1:07.11 from Jeff. Again, this state qualifying time for the 100 back is 1 minute and 9/100ths of a second. So the closest out of that field was Michaela Schmidt, about 6.71 off the mark, but still in good shape. Alyssa Kimmel finishing in 3rd, 1:07.50. As we get ready for our 4th and final heat of the 100-yard backstroke. Scarlett Martin in lane 4, leading the way. Next to her, on her left side, Carly Wilkins, her Iowa City West teammate. Wilkins, only a freshman. Also from Iowa City West, a senior, Vivian Gibson in lane 6. Sydney Jones from Cedar Rapids Wash in lane 3. As it sits right now, Martin, Wilkins, and Jones will all go to state, assuming they all finish this race without any problems arising.
We saw Jones in the IM earlier today. A lot of different types of starts there.
You see Martin and Wilkins there well beyond halfway through the pool length before they even surface.
Again, for rules' sakes, 15-meter mark is where you have to come up. You can't do an entire underwater. It is illegal.
Martin really pushing that.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
purposefully, and she's experienced and talented enough to know exactly where she is in the pool.
Yep, and that's what we were talking, similar to what we were talking about with where you
Those
are.
are those cones.
Yeah.
If you can see kind
Yep.
of on the far side, the official, at least one official on your right side is standing right on that cone. It's a little bit harder to stay underwater that long into the final 100
Right.
here, or the final 25 for Martin. But those first ones, it was getting close.
Yep. And that's similar to what we talked about with the turns. You know, if you swim backstroke long enough, you know where that is and where you have to come up.
Well, you called it. You thought it was going to be close, and certainly it was. 55.85. That is a new pool record for Scarlett Martin. The existing record was from Dowling Catholic's Katie Broderick, who had a 56.03, and Martin beats that by just about 0.3 of a second to continue her fantastic afternoon.
Yeah, and just looking at some of the others in that heat, Sydney was 59.79. She's a little bit faster than her seed time. Carly was 58.68. She was about a second lower than her seed time. But then, if you go down and look at lane 6, so this is what we were talking about in regards to depth for Iowa City West. So Vivian is their third backstroker because you have Scarlett and you have Carly Wilkins. So Vivian would be their third backstroker. She went 102.05. Now, the qualifying time for 2018, the 30-second qualifying time, was 102.05. So she was exactly on the 102.05 from 2 years ago. So if Iowa City West can get her into the meet, then you can start to talk about, even if she can move up into scoring territory, even to get one extra point could be the difference between winning a state title or not.
And as well, for Cedar Rapids Wash, we knew already that Sydney Jones was going to head to state, barring any kind of disqualification there. With Sydney Jones from lane 3 getting a nice accomplishment for her senior year, 59.79. And according to her seed time, she finally breaks that 100 mark. She came in at 1:00:02 and now gets under that minute mark. Will help her seed time, will help her placements into the preliminary round, but we've talked a little bit about throughout the afternoon, just breaking that 1 minute mark is an accomplishment in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, basically any of these, 100 back, 100 breaststroke, 100 breaststroke's a lot harder, but 100 fly, breaking that minute mark, all of those are a milestone accomplishment for when you're talking about any of those events. Looks like we're doing awards here for the 200 free relay.
To gather the rest of the Iowa City West relay. Ordinarily, we would have a podium that would see all 4 swimmers from each relay kind of hop out and squeeze all nice tightly together. And just one of the other things we have to get used to this year, where no podium and anybody who doesn't win kind of can just stay around their team. It'll be a weird environment next year when you're doing that in terms of state titles, because you don't want to hinder any of the accomplishment of a person who finishes 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th in state. That is such an accomplishment. And being on the podium, okay, sure, you're not on that, top spot, but it's still such an accomplishment for a lot of swimmers that unfortunately not exactly sure how they're going to handle podiums next week. I would have to imagine it's something similar to how they're doing it this year, where perhaps only the winners get their TV time and get their close-ups to try and smile as best as they can through those masks. We've only got 2 events left here in this afternoon's regional championship. First, the 100 breast, and then the 400 free relay. But first, we're going to take a short break. You're watching live high school swimming right here on KCRG 9.2. Well, Jake, it's been a while since we've had a winner that didn't come from Iowa City West High School. As I'm looking through the rest of the sheets here, back it was the 200 individual medley, and that's where I thought it was Haley Kimmel, and now Kimmel probably has the best chance to break the streak here in the upcoming 100-yard breaststroke, but this, according to seed time, should be an extremely close race. Kimmel comes in with a seed time of 1:07:71. Right next to Rika Yahashiri from Iowa City High, just 0.15 of a second off that seed mark. Should be a really tight one here in the 100 breast.
Yeah, so automatic qualifying time for the 100 breaststroke, 108.86. We just have the 2 that are underneath that at this point. We have a couple that have a shot. And then last year's qualifying time, 32nd, was 110.76, and 2018 was 111.01. So to feel comfortable, probably 110.5 to feel comfortable that you're going to sneak into those 32. But if you want to guarantee, 108.86 is your shot. It looks like it's going to be down to 2 for the regional title here for the 100 breaststroke, Haley and Rika. But you never know. We've had some people come from out of nowhere and get into that top 2 or 3, so might see that again here in the 100 breaststroke.
And again, I'm only able to access on the Girls Athletic Union page the top 8 in the 100 breast, and Kimmel sits in 6th, and Yahashiri sits in 7th in terms of seed times. A lot of good breaststrokers in the state. They're all following Mary Martin, the senior from Gowland Catholic, was a 105.73. The others from also that west area, Olivia Swally from Johnston, and then a swimmer, Taylor Burr, out of Pleasant Valley, sits in 3rd. So in order to want to compete for a state title, Kimmel and Yahashiri really are going to want to be looking at dropping some time here. Again, as we've stressed throughout the afternoon, it doesn't have to happen right here, right now, but in terms of perhaps their confidence going in and for, lanes, I don't know exactly how much a lane in 100 breast can affect you like it could in a freestyle event, but certainly you want to, give it your all anytime you're out there, certainly knowing that you've got some room to make up in terms of the state leaders.
Yeah, so for this event, you want to look at a couple of things. You want to look at timing of the stroke. So we want to make sure that when we break our hands on our breaststroke stroke, that our head's coming up to breathe, so then the head to hands come back in together. And then also, we had mentioned this in the 200 IM, but that those underwaters and the best breaststrokers are those that have those really strong underwaters. So we'll be looking at that with some of these ladies in the 100 breaststroke.
Now, it's a lot harder when you're not streamlining like they're a backstroke, but is there a limit? Is it still the cone to stay underwater after return?
So you can go, as far as I know, you can go.
You just get the one stroke,
right,
so it's,
right.
Again,
it's harder to hold
unable
that.
to get as far as
Yep.
ordinarily like you would be streamlining.
Yeah, so and for this, you don't want to come off doing that, and you'll see this when you see the underwaters of these 4 heats, but you want to go in and off a wall, and you want to hold your streamline, and then you want to take that underwater pull, and then you want to come up. So you're going to hold that streamline a little bit longer than you might in other strokes in regards to, not necessarily, you're not holding a kick necessarily, you're holding the streamline.
We've had some good feedback on our social media platforms about being out here and just talking about these underwater streamlines and everything. Next year, I hope my producer and my director are listening, because they're very talented people who know how to get this done. We're going to get an underwater cam here, and it's going to follow that streamline. We're going to get one of those ones from the Olympics. We're just going to rent it out, that can kind of follow right to left and then back left to right, so you all at home can see exactly what's going on underwater. I'll start the GoFundMe. We might need a few little bit of help for that, but
that's
going to happen. That's the dream.
That's the swimming version of Skycam, right? If you're watching football and they got the Skycam, that's our swimming version of Skycam, is the underwater cam.
We have 4 heats, the 100-yard breaststroke again here in Heat 1. 3 swimmers, 2 of them from Williamsburg, Olivia Kelting and Lily Fairchild in 3 and 4. Corinne Vandergast in lane 5, the junior from Tipton. Lily Fairchild comes in with the best seed of this heat.
So this stroke seems to be everybody's favorite, and I've been around the sport for 32-ish years, and I've never understood it. Maybe because I'm not good at it, but it seems to be like, on the club team, all of the little kids, that's all they want to do is they want to do breaststroke kick, and they want to do breaststroke full stroke, and it's like, really, why is this? I was, maybe, like I said, maybe it's because I wasn't very good at it.
Does it have to do something with a fatigue thing? It's the least tiring, at least until you really get to that high-end caliber where
that
you're
could be part of it.
able to kind of just soothe through.
Yeah, and I think,
I'm not trying to take any credit away from the work that breaststrokers put in.
And I think part of it, too, is from a psychological standpoint, the kick part of this, you can actually feel like, yourself moving forward and propelling. So it's like,
even though it's probably not as efficient
Right.
as a freestyle
Right.
kick or a butterfly
Right.
kick.
So, yeah, it's again, it's interesting to look at kind of where skill sets are, because generally there's a translation between if you're a good breaststroker, then you're probably a pretty good IMer. And if you're a good butterfly, you're probably a good backstroker, which is just interesting. And part of that obviously is the underwater butterfly kick on your backstroke. There's an element of the similarities there, but it's just interesting to see the skill sets. And usually you can identify a pretty good IMer. They're probably a pretty good breaststroker, and you're going to see that with Haley Kimmel. She won the 200 IM, and she's our top seed in the 100 breaststroke. And then a flyer being a good backstroker too.
Lily Fairchild holding strong there in Heat 1, 131.87. Drops a little bit of time off her seed. Corinne Vandergast drops just about a second to come in second place, 136.66, while Olivia Kelting finishes in third, also dropping time. Dropped the most time of any of them, nearly 6 seconds off of her seed time. Now we have back to a full lineup, full for today, with a swimmer in each lane between 2 and 7. Layla Butler-Mills in lane 2 from City High, Kaylee Clark from Tipton, Emma Sword from Wash, Avery Loftus from City High, Emma Lynch from Cedar Rapids Jeff, and Annika Twelt-Ball also from Cedar Rapids Wash. Top seed time into this one is Emma Sorg, 119.67. And actually, it looks like lane 4, Emma Sorg, is not here.
Okay.
So my apologies. Lane 4 sits empty, so the top seed time now is awarded to Avery Loftus, the freshman from City High, who's in lane 5 and is out in front after the first 25 yards.
So again, one more reminder, our automatic qualifying time, 108.86. And then our range for our last 2 years for 32nd was 110.76 and 111.01. So you can see the lot of different ways to swim this too, in regards to the tempo. You have some athletes that are swimming this with a little bit quicker tempo, and that's what you're seeing a little bit with Avery here in lane 5. But then you're seeing other athletes in this heat that if you took a stopwatch to this and you did the timing of the stroke, there's going to be wide variations of what your timing is on stroke to stroke.
Is there an advantage to either one? A long-reaching slow stroke or a more, quicker-paced fast stroke?
So it just really depends on what you're doing in regards to distance per that stroke. So, for example, if we're looking at Avery here, she's got a faster tempo. She could get a little bit more out in regards to stretching that stroke out. And it just comes down and it boils down to efficiency. So obviously with anything else that you're doing in regards to athletics, the faster you're doing it, the more tired you're going to get. And in regards to swimming, if you can get a better distance per stroke, whether that be in butterfly, in breaststroke, in backstroke, or in freestyle, you're not going to be tired. If you're taking 20 strokes per 25, the person next to you is taking 15, logic stands to reason that you're going to get more tired taking those 20 strokes than the person next to you is taking 15.
Loftus wins the heat, 116.48. In second place, Emma Lynch from Jeff, 122.74. In third, Kaylee Clark out of Tipton from lane 3, 122.79. Again, looks like we have a decent amount of dropping seed times today. So it was a positive thing.
Just going back to that distance per stroke that we talked about, we actually do, and I certainly did not invent this, that whoever was out there that had invented it is a genius, but we play a game called golf for freestyle, which the objective in golf is to get the lowest score. So what we do is we have the athletes swim a 50 freestyle, and what they do is they count their time and they count their strokes, and then they add that up, and that's their score. And so what we're trying to teach them and develop is you can go super fast, but if you're taking 100 strokes, you're going to have a bad score. And you can go super slow and take 4 strokes, but you're going to have a bad score. So you got to find that sweet spot of taking strokes, but also going fast and being efficient about it as well. And you can really do that for I mean, you could do that for any stroke, really.
Sure.
You could do that for breaststroke.
Just about finding that perfect middle ground for each at, stroke rate and stroke distance.
But you're going to see in breaststroke, you're going to see the biggest variation in what the stroke looks like versus any other stroke. Freestyle, pretty much everybody's going to look very similar. Same with butterfly and backstroke. But breaststroke, you can have a ton of different ways to swim this and be effective.
Separated by 0.2 of a second is Addie Mugen and Vivian Gibson. Mugen from Jefferson and Gibson from Iowa City West. As we're headed back across, still staying neck and neck. Full splits right around 35 seconds, 34 seconds it looked like.
So Addie was out in 34. So if we're trying to get a qualifying time of 108, 34 is you got to be faster on that first 50.
And again, the clock reads at 106, 107 now, so won't quite get there on the second 50.
And this is still going to be a good swim for Addie. She's going to have a time drop. But just talking about if you're trying to do the math on this, if you want to go in a 108, you're not going to go 34. You're going to have to be 31 or 32 on that first 50 and come back with 35 or 36 to get under that 108. Because there's very few people are going to negative split any swim event. And what I mean by negative split is you go faster on that second 50 than you do on the first 50. And you're just not going to see that. So if you're trying to get it, so for example, with Addie, if Addie's goal time was, say, 114, then 34 was probably the right time to go out in. 34:40 is where she kind of wanted to be, and that's where that was. So if that's what she wanted to go with 113, then that's really a good 50. So like for Haley, if she wants to go 106 here or 107.0, she's probably going to need to be out in 31 or 32 to get that back in the time she wants to go.
Haley Kimmel, this afternoon's 200 individual medley winner, looking to go 2 for 2 in individual events, sitting there in lane 4. Right next to her is her most fierce competitor today, Rika Yahashiri, in a gang for Iowa City West in lane 3. Also with Margaret Liu in lane 6. Abby Jones has had a nice day for Wash. Katie Carrico in for Williamsburg in lane 7. As we wait for official Bruce for the starter. Swimmers are in the water for our 4th and final heat of our final individual event. And up next, the 400-yard free relay.
So you saw that first 15, 20 yards for Haley. She was half a body length ahead before she even took her first stroke, which speaks to her, the strength of her underwater. And now she's extended that out to almost a full body length.
Yeah, almost a full body length. It looks like in lane 2, Abby Jones, the closest to her. Yahashiri's made a little bit of ground. Yahashiri touches second after the first 50, 33.07, a 30.86 first split for Haley Kimmel.
So she's well where if she wanted to go 5 or 6, that was a great first 50.
Again, when we were talking about the seed times for the rest of the state, Mary Martin was the state leader. 105.73 is the mark to look out for. Again, that's the state leader, so that would be very impressive. Kimmel has already qualified for state and certainly looks to be dropping time. Wow, 105.5, that would do it.
Yep.
That time right there would put Haley Kimmel as the top seed in the state. Again, we don't know what Mary Martin, what Olivia Swally, what Taylor Burr are doing in the other regionals, but a fantastic swim there from Linn-Mar's own Haley Kimmel.
Yep,
and look at the smiles on her face. Yeah. She knows it.
And that's exactly what we were talking about. She was basically, you want to look at 4 to 5 seconds difference between first 50, second 50. So, she wanted to get to that 105 range. She had to be out in 30 point something, and she was out in 30.86 back in 34.69. So under that 4 second difference between first 50, second 50. And I could almost, and I don't want to speculate, you could almost see her almost throttle down in the last 7, 8, 9 yards where she was just really working on that distance per stroke. Just, getting out there and going, okay, I know where I'm at. So let's just not necessarily cruise in, but I'm comfortably ahead, and here we are. So that was a great swim by Haley. She's had a great meet.
Again, it'll be, it's not only just the nerve-wracking wait-and-see kind of night that'll be involved for a lot of swimmers that just miss that automatic state qualifying time and have to wait and see. but also, okay, fine, maybe a little less nervous for Haley Kimmel, but she's going to be waiting and seeing, refreshing that too, to see how the rest of the state shapes up, to see where her seed time is with a swim like that. Knowing that you can be top 1 or top 3 or top 5, certainly I would think affects your mentality headed in.
Yeah, I mean, if you can go in as the top seed, that's a huge confidence booster alone. Obviously, you have to still go out and do it next week, but knowing that you had the best district meet the week before, or regional meet the week before, it's a big confidence and booster for next week for Haley.
On your screen, you see Kimmel giving a nice elbow bump to Scarlett Martin, who won the 100-yard backstroke, and to her right, you see head coach Byron Butler in his natural habitat of standing next to winners and giving them their ticket punch card. Doesn't look as enthusiastic as he was earlier in the afternoon about doing so. I guess it's a pretty good thing to get used to, as you see Martin's time there, 55.83. Again, we mentioned after the backstroke had completed. That is a new pool record here at Linn-Mar Aquatic Center. Scarlett Martin, Aurora Roquer having fantastic days, as has Haley Kimmel. We've only got one event left. Arguably, it's the most fun, the 400-yard freestyle relay. That's coming up next. You're watching live high school swimming right here on KCRG 9.2. We have had 11 events here today. We are ready. Excuse me. These numbers always throw me off. 10 events. They say event 12 because diving's technically event number 1, which was completed on Thursday. Sophomore Natalie Freeman from Jefferson setting a new season best, automatically qualifying for state. And we are ready for our 12th and final event of the regional, 11th event of the day, and that is the 400-yard freestyle relay. We will have just 2 heats, and Iowa City West again headlining that second heat, surprise, surprise, with Jade Roquer, Olivia Tager, Aurora Roquer, and Scarlett Martin. And just looking at my statistics in front of me, they have the top seed, and that's just seed time. Let's see, if they were to come in with their seed time and replicate that, they would, in fact, have a new pool record. They already have the conference record, which is listed here on the scoreboard here at Linn-Mar Aquatic Center. But the girls' record right now stands from 2018. I believe AM would be Ames, going to assume.
Yep. So according to the program that we have, they actually have the pool. These 4 have the pool record.
That's what I was looking at as well. And then I looked up and so maybe it's just not updated. I guess it's probably not updated because according to this, it happened on October 6th.
Yep.
So again, credit to the girls for setting a new pool record, and we'll see if they're able to advance on that. And then the Linn-Mar athletic directors will be tasked. Maybe that's why they haven't put it up yet. What's the point of getting one when you're going to have to get another basically a month later?
And they usually do those at the end of the season, so they won't update those pool records until at the end of the season. But it is interesting to note here that according to the program that we have in front of us, the order of that record-setting pool record relay was Aurora Roquer, Scarlett Martin, Jade Roquer, and then Olivia Tager. Yep. That is a completely different order than what they're going today.
Absolutely.
So it speaks to what we were talking about for the 200 free relay, that there is some strategy involved in how you want to set this up. So the order today for them is Jade is going first, and then Olivia, and then Aurora and Scarlett. So Aurora and Scarlett flip-flopped, and they're actually going third and fourth now instead of first and second. So
that's kind of the same strategy of what we saw Coach Butler do in the 200. Obviously, Ella Hostetler was in there, I believe, instead of Olivia Tager, and Hostetler was first, Roquer was second, Jade Roquer, that is, and now instead Jade Roquer will take the lead, Tager second, and then, like you said, Aurora third, Scarlett fourth. But Aurora and Scarlett being that last 2 legs with Martin the anchor, that is what we saw also in the 200 free relay.
Yep. So, again, no qualifying time, no automatic qualifying time. The winner of this event will automatically qualify, but there is no time that we're looking for here in regards to like an individual event. But the last 2 years, the 32nd time last year was 3:50.84. Right now, that would only put 2 of those relays, according to seed times, into the state meet. That would be Iowa City West and Linn-Mar. And then in 2018, the 32nd best time was 3:54. And that would still only put there's only 2 relays right now that are under that 3:54 number. So a couple of these relays have some work to do to get into that range that we've seen the last 2 years. But, Jefferson is 3:57.09, City High is 3:57.78, and then Wash is 4:01.5. And Tipton had a really strong 200 free relay, and that they're probably, I don't want to give any Tipton fans out there false sense of hope, but they're in really good shape to make 32 based off of historical numbers that we saw. So, I mean, Tipton's got a good chance of getting into that 32 number 2. Their seed right now is 4:04. But, the way they swam their 200 free relay, was Maddie Swick, Avery Collender, Ryan Heffler, and Zoe Stonebreaker. And it's the same 4 here. So the way they swam the 200 free, who knows what they're going to do here.
And again, with the seed time, that really is quite ahead of the competition here in this heat. Keokuk Williamsburg, it's about that same sentiment of finding your own motivation, racing against yourselves here, knowing, and I'm sure their coach told them, that you guys have a chance here, but you got to give it your absolute best. Again, the 400-yard freestyle, so each leg 100 yards. First in the water for the Tigers, Maddie Swick, the senior.
Yeah, and so this is their last opportunity, with Maddie leading off and then Zoe at the end. They're both seniors. This is their last opportunity to try and get a 400 free relay in. And, they were seated in the 200 free. They were seated at 149.83, and they went 145. They dropped 4 seconds. So do the math on that. You drop 8 seconds in the 400, and you're at 3:56, and you're giving yourself a chance. So
far, if you want each 100 to hover around 1 minute to be able to dip under 4 minutes, Maddie Swick did a good job. 58.27 first 100-yard split for Tipton. Into the water now, Avery Calendar.
Yeah, ideally you want to find, to get into that 353, 354 range, you want to find, have a couple 56 or 57s in there and then find a couple double O's. I mean, obviously you would want to have all 55s or 56s, but, having 1 or 2 that's significantly under that minute mark gives you a little bit of leeway in regards to trying to get to that number.
Nice split, 29.52 for Avery in her first 50. She reaches the flip turn into her final 25. Up to the block next, Ryan Heffler for the Tigers. And again, these relays all about their exchanges when you have both pairs of eyes from the referees looking exactly for that. Look good there. 31.55, so maybe just a shade over 1 minute
yep.
Seed there for Avery Calendar.
So they're going to have to make up a little bit of ground here in the back half. If they can pull off 2:58s here, you're putting yourself at 3:55, and you're putting yourself right in the conversation.
Right now, the junior Heffler looks like she's going pretty fast as we look at 27.14. Great first 50.
Great start. And what we saw from the anchor leg Zoe in the 200 free, that's not out of the realm of possibility to see a couple of 57s or 58s here to put yourself in the conversation. Tipton has a roster of 11 girls. So this would be an impressive feat for them to get 2 relays in with only 11 athletes.
So it looks like Heffler has slowed down a bit, but after that first 50, she can afford a little bit. Let's see what that second 50 seed time is. 31.05, so
58.
Again, quick math, still under a minute.
Yep.
So they're really hovering right around that 4-minute range. Came in with a seed time of 4:04.92, so let's just call it 4:05. So we Stonebreaker into the water now.
So you want to see, to give yourself a shot, probably a 57 here from Stonebreaker.
First 50 after the turn.
27.12. So she's got a good chance here. She's got to come back in about 30 point to get yourself at that 3:54 range. And again, this is where, 7-8 minutes from now, going to be a lot of nervous folks waiting on those 32 names.
Again, clock hits 3:50, has about 10 seconds to get under. They will get under 4 minutes, no doubt. Stonebreaker, a 31-28 final.
58.
Split 3:55.93. Drops about just about 9 seconds off their seed time. Not a bad place to be.
And that's about, exfoliating that out. That's about what they dropped in the 2 free. About 4 seconds to 9 seconds is about right.
Williamsburg also finishes up 4:15.39, also dropping some time. Keokuk still has 50 yards left to go here on this anchor leg. With Kyla Muston.
And Keokuk is one of the smaller teams in the state. They just have 7 athletes.
If you are focused in on team scores, Iowa City West has wrapped this bad boy up already. 488 points for Iowa City West. Linn-Mar in second place, also above 400 points. Great showing for the Lions here at home. 401. Wash and City High still battling for third. Wash has the advantage, 250 to 227. As Keokuk finishes up here, 5:09.56. Losing about 10 seconds off that seed time, but it will be the Tipton Tigers who hopefully by the time they drive home from up here in Linn-Mar might know a little bit more about their fates in regards to next week.
And, with social media and texting and all of the technology we have,
got to imagine some of these assistant coaches
they probably
are
have
keeping
spies.
some eyes on these other regionals.
They've got some spies that are around the other areas that are trying to do some math and figuring out where they stand.
Again, on behalf of KCRG, we want to thank all of you for watching and participating with us here at the Linn-Mar Regional Championship. We had an absolute blast doing this. This was the first time ever on KCRG 9.2 that we have done either swimming or diving live, and we have one race left. Heat 2, the 400-yard freestyle relay. There's a reason the PA is blaring the music because they know people are hyped for this one. In lane 2, Cedar Rapids Wash. In lane 3, Jefferson. In lane 4, the overwhelming favorites, Iowa City West. In lane 5, Linn-Mar. And in lane 6, Iowa City High. You can see their seed times on your screen to the right of their names. Iowa City West about a 14 to 15 second advantage over the Linn-Mar Lions. Again, it will be Jade Rogaire, Olivia Tager, Aurora Rogaire, and Scarlett Martin. The order for the Trojans. For Linn-Mar will be Lucy Hars, Lily Geelan, Emily Brenham, and Lily Hars. Again, if I'm not mistaken, in that 200-yard free relay where that was close for a while, Haley Kimmel was a part of that, which she is not in this.
Yep, she was on the medley, so no Haley Kimmel for Linn-Mar here. We want to thank everybody again for tuning in. Share your feedback, please. If you want to see more swimming on KCRG 9.2, feedback would be great. Let all the people paying the bills know that you're watching.
Absolutely appreciate that. Our Facebook inbox is always open, as are our Twitter DMs. If you want to send a public message, even better.
I know
at KCRG_sports.
I know there's a lot of swim fans out here in the state of Iowa, so I know they appreciate being able to watch some swimming.
We're happy to be here. We would be happy to come back. Jade Rogaire, neck and neck with lane 6. That's Heidi Stalkfleet from City High. Looks like Stalkfleet has a little bit of advantage, passing it off to Avery Loria. The second leg for City High. In for the water for Iowa City West is Olivia Tager.
So Coach Hugo for Iowa City High, he's having the more traditional relay lineup here with Heidi at the front and then Rika at the back in the anchor leg. So whereas Coach Butler for Iowa City West, he's got Aurora and Scarlett 3-4.
Again, already out of the first 50, Tager has retaken the lead for Iowa City West and looking to extend it as they get into their second and third dominating legs with Aurora Rogaire and Scarlett Martin. Tager, extremely impressive here into her final flip turn going into the last 25. Has now extended the lead to a full body length and a little bit more.
So we want to keep an eye out on these other teams too, because of fighting for those last spots, those last 30, 31, 32 spots according to their seed times. So we're going to want to keep an eye on this third and fourth leg on some of these teams too.
In the water for Iowa City West, Stanford commit Aurora Rogear, creating what's now a very sizable lead, nearing a half a pool length for the Trojans.
So again, their own pool record, 331.02. That's what they're chasing.
Right now they sit at 2:12.45 after the first 50 from Rogear, split of 24-72.
Battle for second here heating up. Emily Brenham closing the gap here on Kalia Seaton. Lily Hars anchoring for Linmar, and Rika Yashihiri anchoring for City High in lane 6.
The exchange has happened for Aurora Rogear to Scarlett Martin. As again, all eyes on that second and third place battle between Linmar and City High. Anchors are in. Lily Hars with a slight advantage over Rika Yahashiri, whereas Scarlett Martin's already completely on the other side of the pool. See what her split time is, 24.93. They're at 3:04.44. I don't know math very well. It looks like they're going to be pretty darn close to that 3:31.02 mark.
And keep an eye on Lauren Williams over here in lane 3.
Coming up for Jefferson,
She's
sure.
already qualified in the 200 free and the 100 free, and she's closing the gap here on these guys.
Here comes Martin into the finish. 3:31.02 is the mark.
Got it.
3:30.84 for Iowa City West, setting a new pool record, breaking their existing record. But let's take a look at the second place battle here. Rika Yahashiri with the leg up over Lily Hars, who now finishes in second. Lauren Williams, a nice finish for Jeff, who finishes in fourth. And it's Abby Jones closing things out for Wash. But again, as you're taking a look at Scarlett Martin, a last 50 of 26.40. Just an absolutely fantastic day for the Iowa City West Trojans. If you're looking for your momentum to increase headed into the state tournament, I don't know that you could have done any better than what you did this afternoon.
Yeah, tremendous effort by Coach Butler, his staff, and all the athletes for West. They obviously they won the. It was a little bit anticlimactic there in the 4 free. They had an insurmountable lead for the regional title. But yeah, they now it's just a matter of getting everybody ready to go for next week and trying to, as you mentioned, win what's been an elusive state title for a number of years for an Iowa City school. But just to kind of comment on the other 5 relays in that heat, they're all under last year's qualifying time. So Wash was 3:49.05, Jefferson 3:48.09. Linmar 3:46.91 and Iowa City High 3:45.16. Last year's time was 3:50.84. So all of them have at least a second and a half cushion from last year.
You see Linmar's own Haley Kimmel taking another ticket to state, punching her second ticket. She will go in the 200-yard individual medley as well as the 100-yard breaststroke. So you see her time there, a 1:05.50.
Celebrating with Coach Bobby Kelly. He was a Jayhawk. His swim team a little bit better than his football team. Sorry,
rough
Bobby.
Rough year this year.
Yeah.
Football, next week's a busy week for sports departments and sports teams. We've got football state semifinals starting on Thursday, going through Saturday at the Unidome. We've got state girls swimming starting on Thursday with the prelims, and on Saturday the diving and swimming championships will start, as Kimmel gives a nice thumbs up right to our camera. That was perfect. And then the fall season really starts dwindling down, and after that it's just the football state championship will be at the Unidome the week following, and then you can say goodbye to our fall athletic season, which it's hard to put one word to pinpoint or describe exactly what this fall season has been like. Unique would be the easy choice. There are certainly a lot of other qualifying candidates to show how this season has gone. We hope that everybody and their families has stayed safe and escaped much worries or concerns with this COVID-19 virus that has kind of flipped everybody's worlds upside down. But in terms of these high school athletes, They have gotten the opportunity here in the state of Iowa to participate in the regular season and now a postseason and now what looks like a state competition right in Marshalltown a week from today. And when we're talking about specifically the Iowa City schools, because Iowa City High also falls into this, Liberty Wood as well, but they're obviously co-op with Iowa City West. They had a 3-week hiatus in this year due to the Iowa City Public School District kind of going their percentage of virtual learning and not in person. And we talked, I talked to both Aurora and Scarlett in that time, who were both training with club teams or whatever, but anything but a traditional year and a traditional training regimen for all of these girls this year. And it's certainly good to see them having success, not just winning and getting automatic bids, but setting new pool records, setting new personal bests. Something you always want to see, and in a year filled with so much adversity, got to make it that much more special.
Yeah, and you want to have the top people at state, right? You want to have everybody there because you want to be a true state champion. You want to beat all of the top competitors in your event, and it looks like we're going to have that, which is good. And again, it's just a testament to all of the athletes and all of the staff and even parents. To make sure that everybody's staying healthy and we were able to have a season like this.
Looks like we're going to have a quick celebration from our regional champion, but first we're going to take one more quick short break for a word from one of our sponsors.
Give your home a beautiful new look with a custom home project by HRT Building and Remodeling, a division of Home Repair Team. Our certified remodeling team can design, build, and install any home project, large or small. Transform your home with a beautiful state-of-the-art kitchen, an elegant custom-designed bathroom, an entertainment environment for the whole family, or a spacious addition. Call HRT Building and Remodeling and Home Repair Team today.
So our public address announcer, Corey Hars, is reading off the team scores. Keokuk, Tipton, Williamsburg are 8 through 6. Keokuk finishing 8th, Tipton 7th, Williamsburg 6th, Jefferson in 5th, City High 4th, Cedar Rapids Wash in 3rd, Linn-Mar, great showing, 433 for 2nd place. But it's the Iowa City West High Trojans doing what most thought they would do here this afternoon, and somewhat more of a subtle celebration down near poolside, but still eclipsing 500 team points, 528 total. I don't have it counted up exactly, but out of our 11 events, I'm going to ballpark 9, I believe. I know Kimmel won 2 individual events, and I think the rest might have all been carried by Iowa City West, which has got to make head coach Byron Butler a happy guy.
Yep, good setup well for next week, and now it's getting them prepared and ready to go to hopefully move up in those seeds for those 2nd and 3rd people that are qualified.
Again, before we go, we've got some highlights here from our final handful of events that, again, saw Iowa City West win the majority of. Here we are in the 100 back. This is Scarlett Martin, a 55.85, breaking the pool record for Katie Broderick of Dowling, also automatic state qualifying. Carly Wilkins, Sydney Jones also make state. And how about Haley Kimmel? Fantastic showing on the 100 breaststroke, the only automatic state qualifying time of the heat today. But again, a lot of teams and a lot of athletes are just a wait and see type of deal in the next couple hours. 400 free relay, also Iowa City West winning by nearly 15 seconds thanks to the team of Jade Rogaire, Olivia Tager, Aurora Rogaire, and Scarlett Martin. And if we can try and pull out, here's the less subtle celebration from the Iowa City West High Trojans, jumping in the pool, which they also hope to do right about this same time next week, exactly a week from now, the state championship at the YMCA in Marshalltown. Iowa City West has a lot of participants and perhaps their best opportunity to get a trophy, which has been their goal, head coach Byron Butler's goal, for quite a long time. 3rd, 2nd, even 1st place are all in reach for this Trojan team.
Yeah, and Byron hopes to get a little wet next week too, because the tradition is to throw the head coach in there. So he's hoping to go home a little more soaking wet than what he shows up at next week. And good luck to everybody next week. Should be an absolutely fantastic state meet, and great job to everybody today.
Again, well, that will wrap up our coverage here from Linmar Aquatic Center. For Jake Gantenbein, I'm Mike O'Brien. For everybody in the truck and the KCRG 9.2 team, a big thanks goes out to the Linmar Athletic Department and the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union for helping us be here and letting us be here and bring you coverage of high school girls swimming. I hope you all have a great rest of your Saturday, everybody. Have a good night.